Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order limiting attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching it on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. To ensure audio clarity, I also suggest that you refrain from using the speakerphone function on your telephones. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Alan Smithies, and I will chair this afternoon's meeting. Joining us on the panel today are Ron Hunt, Asif Khan, Paul Kidd, and Nadini Sankar Peralta. City staff are also present: Daniel Antonacci, Brendan Clapp, and Jenny Kotas. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to property, permission to extend or alter lawful nonconforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone attending today who wants to receive a copy of the committee's decision on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, LPAT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. The hearing procedure is as follows. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5-minute limit. When addressing the committee, please state clearly your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters described in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee of the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. To ensure that a revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes, the committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised. Then individuals, either in support or opposed to the application, are invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This marks the end of discussion on the item. The application is taken into committee for a decision. I'll just ask, are there any committee members here this afternoon who have a conflict of interest they'd like to declare? Mr. Kidd?
There are 5 items where I'd like to declare a conflict. Number 20, item 26, 1543 Mount Pleasant Road.
And the nature of that conflict?
All of these, I'm acquainted with the agent.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kidd. That's item number 26.
There's four more as well. Number 32,
Oh, number 32 as well?
yes. Number 37,
Oh, just a moment. Number 37?
that's correct.
Okay.
Number 38,
Okay.
and 39.
39. So let me just repeat that, Mr. Kidd. Number 26, 32, 37, 38, and 39.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll now proceed with the agenda. We are on item number 20, which is 226 Brunswick Avenue. I have one person registered to speak on this item. That's a Mr. Haddix. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. I just wanted to ask, pretty clear what you're asking for. It's an increase in floor space index. I note that we have no comments from city staff on this application, and there is no one registered to speak on the item. I'll just ask the committee, does it require a presentation, or does the committee have any questions? There being none, if I could get a motion on the application, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Khan, did you have a question?
Yes, sir, I do. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask Mr. Haddix, the very first variance, number 1, your factor of 1.42 lot area is very high, while you are not supposed to have, according to the zoning bylaws. That's the maximum you already have.
Okay, I'll refer that to the applicant. Sir, can you give us a justification for why you need the increase in floor space index?
Yes, it's a upstairs apartment in my house, and currently it's about 1,000 square foot, 1 bedroom, and there's a 22-foot ceiling in the second floor living room. So there's a void on the 3rd floor. All the work will take place inside the house. The house envelope will not change. I'll just simply be filling in a floor space. And, I realize that it's more than the normal allowable density, but not even really close to the, I think, 6 times coverage that the West Bank project is enjoying at Bathurst and Bloor.
Okay, and I could ask, just to emphasize, sir, the exterior of the building doesn't change. Everything is just...
That's correct.
Everything is related to the interior.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions?
Can I speak some more?
Mr. Khan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The 3rd floor that you are raising the height is also a concern, but basically you haven't replied. You are admitting that your 1.42 is higher than allowable. The maximum you already have. You cannot have 1.42 because of the zoning bylaws, and you also have it's a residential area, and it is restricted by the letter D to the numerical value of 1. So you already have maximum. You cannot have more than 1.42.
Mr. Khan, is that a question?
Yes, sir. That was the question I am explaining. That why I'm raising this question.
Okay, but you don't have to, sir. I mean, you can save that if you make a motion. Okay. Can I get so no other question, Mr. Hunt? No, Mr. Hunt, I can't hear you. Mr. Hunt, we can't hear you.
Mr. Chair, I was going to move a motion, not ask a question.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. All right, given the increased floor area and the fact that it's all within the envelope of the existing building, I would move approval of this application.
Someone to second Mr. Hunt's motion? Opposed? Mr. Khan dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved with Mr. Khan. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Kidd seconded it. I'm sorry, my mistake. Mr. Khan dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved.
Well, thank you very much. Is that all I need to, is that the end of my participation, or do you require more input from me?
No, we don't require anything, sir. You've been approved.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Item number 21, 10 Rainsford Road. I have one person registered to speak, a Danielle Nicholas. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, yes, thank you, Ms. Nicholas. I just wanted to ask, have you had the opportunity to read the city planning report of the 28th of September? That report recommends that if the committee finds merit in the application, that variance number 1 related to the side exterior main wall height shall be limited to the proposed third-story addition, provided that the addition be constructed substantially in accordance with the dimensions shown in drawings A101, 201, 202, and 302. Have you had the opportunity to read that report?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
No, where would I?
It was dated September 28th. It's been up there for some time. They don't appear to have any objection to your proposal, subject to that condition.
Oh, okay. Sorry, where would that, I didn't have access to that.
It doesn't get sent to you. You have to look it up on your file on the Committee of Adjustment website.
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I didn't see that.
It's coming
That's
up
good.
on the screen now. You can see it.
Perfect.
Okay. You have.
Yeah.
Okay. I see that you have 2 variances before us. It's pretty clear what you're asking for, and there appears to be no objection to it from city planning, but I will ask the committee if it has any questions or comments or would like a presentation.
Sure.
There being none, we have no one else here who's appeared in interest, wants to speak in interest on this item. So if I could get a motion on this application, please. Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe the variances are not minor. Variance number 1 is 9.94 exceed the limit of 7.5 meter allowable limits of zoning bylaws. Variance number 2 is also more than allowable limits of from 0.6 lot area to 0.78 lot area. Both variances are not minor, in my opinion. Uncharacteristic of the neighborhood and does not comply the intent of the bylaws. Therefore, I move this application be refused.
Okay, so we have a motion for Mr. Khan that the application be refused. Is there someone, can I get a motion, someone to second that motion? That motion does not carry. Can I get another motion? Ms. Sankar?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I believe it's minor in terms of the explanations provided, and staff has no problems except for the one recommendation. So I'll motion to approve this application, subject to the recommendation of the planning staff that is dated September 28th. That variance number 1 related to the zoning bylaw, and I won't go through all those numbers, but related to the sidewall main height shall be limited to the proposed third-story addition, provided that the addition be constructed substantially in accordance with the dimension drawings of A-101 in the plan and A-201 proposed west side elevation, as well as A-202 proposed east side elevation and A-302 proposed north elevation in the plans that was received to the committee on September 2nd, 2020.
Thank you, Ms.
That's
Sankar.
it.
Someone to second that motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Khan dissenting? Oh, hang on, just, Mr. Hunt, you have your hand up. Were you, you had your hand up, the motion in favor of it? You were, okay, thank you. Madam, your application has been approved, subject to city planning conditions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Item number 22, 25 Cambridge Avenue. I have one person registered to speak. Mike De Oliveira, are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here. My name is Mike De Oliveira. I'm here representing 25 Cambridge from Replacement Design located at 911 Davenport Road.
Okay, thank you, sir. I wanted to ask, have you had the opportunity to read the city planning report of the 30th of September, which recommends that if the committee sees merit in the application, that variance number 2 related to all side exterior main wall height be limited to the proposed third story, provided that the third story shall be constructed substantially in accordance with the drawings that they specify in their condition. Have you had the opportunity to read that report?
Yes, we've read the report and we've discussed it with the owners. They're happy to follow the recommendations from planning. So we're okay with keeping that height related to the setback that's currently shown on the third floor.
Okay, thank you, sir. You have 3 variances before us. It's very clear what you're asking for. We have no one who wishes to speak in interest on this item. I was going to ask the committee if it has any questions or would like a presentation. Being none, could I get a motion on the application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I do accept this application as meeting the 4 tests, and I will make it subject to the staff report that was dated on September 30th, 2020, that variance number 2 related to all side exterior main wall heights be limited to the proposed third story, and provided that the third story shall be constructed substantially in accordance with the dimensions shown in the drawings. That is the site plan, the west elevation and the north elevation and east elevations received by the committee on April 23rd, 2020.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sankar. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Kidd, seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Khan dissenting. So your application, sir, your application has been approved subject to city planning conditions.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Item number 23, 75 Evans Avenue. I have one person registered to speak, Danielle Allen. Are you there?
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm there.
Yes, hello. Can I get your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Daniel Allen. Address is 66 Malta Avenue, Brampton. I'm the applicant.
Okay, thank you, sir. I wanted to ask, we have no staff comments on this application, but I had a question. You're applying for the fact that the proposal will have no parking spaces. When I went out to see the site, can I ask, well, where do you park? Where do you park your vehicle?
Actually, the owner do park on the right side of the porch, because they have a small car and it fits right there.
So
Because basically, the property, if you look at it, I don't know if you guys have the site plan.
so
Do you have it, or show you mine?
sir, have you got another audio device on? Can you turn it? Just turn your speakerphone off.
Okay, speakerphone off. How do I do that?
Just speak into the phone like a regular telephone.
Oh, okay. Okay, let me do that.
Okay, so I just wanted to, just to clarify, you park in your front yard then?
Yes, they park in the front yard.
Have you got a front yard parking permit for that?
when I say front yard, it's right next to the
Okay,
porch, but within the property.
I'm just raising it as an issue. I'm just bringing it to your attention. It's an issue. It's,
Okay.
you have a variance before us, but the issue of parking on the municipal boulevards another matter. My suggestion is at some point in time, you're going to have to deal with this with the Transportation Services Department, because it's an issue that can really come back to bite you when you try to sell a house. So I'm warning you now, you don't have to deal with it now, but it's something eventually you're going to have to deal with. Okay, so it's just a warning.
Oh, okay. I'll explain that to the owner.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I notice we have no one else registered to speak on this item. The variances you're asking for are very clear. All the three variants before us. I'll just ask the committee, does it have any questions or comments, or would it like a presentation? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll motion to approve this application. I do believe it meets the 4 tests according to my view. And I do see a forestry report in there, but in reading it, it looks like they were already dealing with forestry, so I'm not going to make it subject to forestry. So I'm approving as is.
Okay, someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Khan dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved without condition. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Item number 24, 76 Cork Avenue. We have 3 people registered to speak, and the agent is a Mr. Martin Zebzuni. Are you there, sir? Marin Zebzuni.
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Marin Zabzuni. I'm the agent for 76 Cork Avenue.
Can I get your address, please, sir?
1140 the Queensway.
Okay, thank you very much. If you could give us, you have 4 variances before us. If you could get, in view of the fact that we do have people who are registered to speak on this item, if you could give us a very brief presentation on what you see are the merits of the proposal.
Sure. We're proposing a 2-story dwelling, and we've made actually some adjustments before to make some reductions to what you see today. The variances, I believe, are very minor, and we can go over right now. One moment. So variance number 1, speaking to lot coverage, we're allowed 35% lot coverage, and we're just asking for a 1.4% over, which is quite minor. The lot is not very deep. It is wide, but not very deep, and this also affects our rear deck variance encroachment. But the deck is low to the ground, so I don't believe it will provide any negative impacts on the property. Driveway width, we're allowed 6 meters, and we're asking for 0.71 meters extra, and which I believe is also minor. And the permitted building height, this speaks to the old bylaw from Crown of Road. We actually comply with a new bylaw for building height. So I feel this is more of a technical variance rather than anything else. And these are the only variances we're proposing for this property.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker? Okay, thank you. I'll move on to our interested parties. I have Nadia Sortino Monteleone. Are you there?
Mr. Chair, they do not appear to be present.
Okay, thank you. I'll take them off the list. Next speaker is a Douglas Pickett. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am here.
Yes, sir. Can I get your name and address, please?
Sure, Douglas Pickett, and I reside at 78 Cork Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed. If you could tell us your views on this application.
Well, most of the variances I have to agree with. I think are relatively minor, and I don't really object to them. I suppose the one thing that I find troubles me a bit is the whole question of going 2.25 meters over the zoning in the area. This street, although like any neighborhood is in transition, it's still predominantly an area of single-story or side-split dwellings, predominantly a mid-century modern kind of style, and I think my opinion is that going going up to the proposed height is just kind of out of character of the neighborhood, and well, I guess it doesn't really apply to the zoning, but I can't say that I think the style really fits in with the neighborhood. But that really summarizes my concerns in all of this.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I'll refer it back to Mr. Zebzuni. You have the opportunity to reply to the comments from Mr. Pickett.
Yes, so thank you. The house is a traditional house in design, and the height, there's a portion of the height in the middle area that is the only portion that's higher. Again, it still complies with the new bylaw. And to speak with overall massing and height, the roof is quite sunken. The eaves height is lower than most typical two-story homes. So to give a feel of almost 1.5 story, so the overall massing from street view is reduced. And I believe it meets the 4th test in that respect, and is fitting for the area.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Okay. I wanted to emphasize that there are, sorry folks, somebody has their mute button off. Okay. Okay, thank you. Just want to emphasize with 76 Cork Avenue that we have no recommended conditions from staff on this application. So if I could get a motion on the application, please. Mr. Khan?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, I find these 4 variances as minor variances, and I see the intent of the zoning bylaw is met. Therefore, I move that this application be approved.
Okay, can I get someone to second Mr. Khan's motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries, sir. Your application has been unanimously approved without condition. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 25, 479 Coldstream Avenue. I have one person registered to speak. That is Joshua Chittis. I hope I spelled that right. Is the agent. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Sir, can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, Joshua Chittis, 23 Foxwood Road, Thornhill, Ontario, L4J9C4.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, have you had the opportunity to read the city planning report of the 14th of September? Staff is recommending that if committee approves the application, that the property be developed in accordance with the west and east side elevation drawing submitted to the committee, and that the lot coverage of the dwelling be limited to about 36.85%, with the remaining 6.6% of the lot coverage allocated towards the deck. Have you had an opportunity to read that report?
I have had an opportunity to read the report, and I do agree with the recommendations, and we are okay with it.
Okay, thank you. I'll just ask, pretty clear what you're asking for in the variance before us. Just ask the committee if it has any questions or comments, would like a presentation. Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would simply like, for my own information, from Mr. Chittis, how did he get the 35% lot coverage?
I think it's, sir, the question is if you could just give a little more clarity on the issue of the lot coverage and how your number came about.
Sure. Okay, so the maximum lot coverage is 35% of the lot area. The variance is for a lot coverage of 43.45%. Now, 6 points, sorry, I'm just getting my notes here. 6.6% of the coverage is allocated towards the deck, which means that we have an actual coverage of 36.85. Further, 1.6% of the coverage is for the one-story addition at the back, which is well set back from either side yard lot line. So in reality, the main dwelling is closer to, is just slightly over 35%. So because the deck is larger than 5% of the lot coverage, it is included as part of the coverage. But the intent of the lot coverage is to ensure that properties fit on the lot and that there's sufficient yard space and amenity space on the lot, which there is for this proposed development.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions of the speaker? There being none, there's no one registered to speak on this item except the agent, and the only comments we have with respect to the application are those from city planning. So if I could get a motion on the application, please. Mr. Kidd?
Mr. Chair, in my opinion, the application is minor in nature and appropriate. I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application subject to conditions set out in staff report, planning staff report dated September 14th. Reading, property be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan, west and east side elevation drawings submitted to the Committee of Adjustment as attachments 1, 2, and 3. And also the lot coverage of the dwelling to be limited to approximately 36.85%, and the remaining 6.6% of the lot coverage to be allocated towards the deck.
Thank you, Mr. Kidd. Someone to second Mr. Kidd's motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application has been approved, subject to city planning condition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Item number 26, 1543 Mount Pleasant Road. Mr. Kidd, you have a conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, I have one person registered to speak on this item. That's Peter Higgins, the agent. There's no other speakers registered. Mr. Higgins, are you there?
I am, sir.
Okay, sir, I wanted to ask, there's staff report of the 29th of September from city planning, and staff is recommending reducing variance number 4 regarding the building depth, excuse me, from 21.22 meters to under 19 meters, and eliminating variance number 6 regarding the ancillary building lot coverage under zoning bylaw number 569-2013. I just wanted to ask if would those recommended conditions effectively destroy your proposal?
I wouldn't say destroy, but certainly hamper greatly. So I would like to speak to those if I may.
I just wanted to ask at this time, given those comments, would you like to defer the application and discuss it further with city planning?
No, we've certainly tried. City planning has their position, and I don't always agree with them, nor do you. I shouldn't put words in your mouth, but we have a condition here that I think warrants you fully understanding the reason for the variance.
Okay, sir, what I'll do is if you could give the committee a presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal vis-a-vis and with a special regard to the planning comments.
Certainly. If I may ask to have a colored site plan that was most recently sent to the committee.
Okay.
Put on the screen. I have a copy here, but I just thought you should refer to it.
Are you referring to drawing number A1, sir?
Correct.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, is there a colored version by any chance that is available? The reason I ask is the colored version that was submitted shows a number of changes that we made, modest for sure, but still in keeping with the spirit of, we believe, minor variance applications. So perhaps staff can try to find the colored version, but if you were to blow up this site plan, please.
I don't. We don't, committee members don't have a colored version, but we just have the black and white.
Oh, okay, so that's fine. If we could blow up this site plan a little bit, please. All right. So I'm just going to go through, as I describe this, I'm going to go through the list of variances, if I may, to show you where the changes have taken place.
Okay, please proceed. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. And number one, the canopy, awning, similar structure, etc., is at the setback 0 meters from the north lot line. That's an existing condition, and that leads me to tell you that this is essentially a new house by renovation. We're trying to save 50% of the walls, and we've done that pretty clearly, but certainly every time we go to modify things like length or depth, we lose some of the walls that exist and therefore are close to, if not now, under the 50% rule. So I call it, and I think the planning department also describes these things as new build by renovation. The idea is to keep the entirety of the south wall with minor exceptions and parts of the north wall. Now, that's why when I say that the number one, the platform is existing, that's the case. It's an existing condition. So we don't change that. Number two, the roof eaves projection is on the south side. That is also an existing condition. Number three, the maximum permitted height of the first floor above established grade is 1.2. We have 1.39 meters. That is an existing condition. Number four, probably the trickiest one. Maximum permitted building depth is 17 meters. Different from many zones where it's allowed to be 19, but nevertheless, we have a proposed depth of 21.22. We are changing that to 20.80.
Okay, so you're proposing to make a revision?
Correct.
And that's which one, variance number 4?
Correct.
And what's the change from 21.22 to which?
20.80.
20.80. Okay, thank you.
Now, further to this,
Mr. Chair, I was reading that they
I'm
have,
sorry,
he has
Mr. Khan, can you let him finish, please, and ask your question when he's done? Okay?
Thank you. I had a complete disagreement with the planning department on how to measure not the length. I'm going to say length, but we don't have a length variance here because there is no length. But I just wanted to say that the building depth is measured from a point on a severe angle because it's parallel to the line of the street of Mount Pleasant, which we're going around a very tight corner here. So the place to measure building depth from is beyond the existing and proposed walls, quite a bit beyond, almost a meter. So that exacerbates the condition already. The existing house has a much larger depth of 22 meters. We're reducing everything down to 20.8. If you were to look closely at the outline of that site plan, you can see the outline of the present house. And as I said, because we're trying to make this a renovation, we were trying to maintain the walls. And we are actually 3 meters shorter on the, 2.5 meters shorter on the east side where we're pulling back what is a 1-story portion. We have further increased the rear design by notching in the corners of the second floor. But overall, we have a tricky condition here because the existing house is far beyond the allowable depth, and we are shortening it nevertheless, but trying to keep the wall. So we're stuck with what we have. We'd have to demolish quite a bit more of the house, which seems not the right way to go to try to get anywhere near 17 meters. Now, the planning department had suggested 19, but when the existing house depth is 22, that's lopping off 10 feet of good existing house that we'd like to maintain. I'm going to carry on now to number 5.
Mr. Higgins, can you summarize? You have 20 seconds, please.
Well, I'm going to try very quickly, sir, but this is tricky. Number 5, we're reducing the floor space index from 0.74 to 0.72.
Okay, hang on. So number
5.
Number 5, you're changing from
0.7
0.74 to 0.72?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Number 6 is the other contentious issue. We are reducing the size of the garage to 7.8% from the 9.01. So if you would note that, please.
Okay, so variance number 6, you're reducing the ancillary building from 9.01% to 7.8%.
Yes, and further to that, it is a single car garage. This is a growing family of 4 with teenage and
Mr.
boys.
Higgins,
Well,
thank you.
sir, I just need to finish, please, if I may take 30 seconds.
No, you've already
The
had
allowable,
well over it.
the allowable FSI is 40 meters squared, and we're
Okay,
at
thank you,
35 point. Here we go.
Thank you. Mr. Khan, you had a question?
Yes, sir, I do. I have Mr. Higgins on the line. Mr. Higgins, you have reduced your variance number 5 I'm talking about. The floor space index you have reduced from 0.74 to 0.72. That is not a significant, lowering of the percentage.
Sir, it's a reduction because we are shortening the house even further than we had originally planned to.
But Mr. Higgins, you have to realize you're only allowed 0.6. That's the maximum you can have.
Yes, I'm fully aware of that, and 0.72 is not unheard of in this neighborhood by any chance.
But it does not meet, it does not comply with the zoning bylaw.
Okay,
No,
sir.
but that's why we're here at the Committee of Adjustment for a minor variance, Mr. Khan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
And also,
Mr. Khan, another
one more
question? Another
yeah,
question?
Mr. Chairman, I was reading that Mr. Higgins has agreed for variance number 4 I'm addressing or talking about the building depth. Staff has recommended 19 meters and he's changing to 20 point something. What is going on here?
Well, sir, I was stating clearly that the existing house depth is 22 meters. And part of that is measured, as is the new measurement, from a point ahead of or to the west of the existing and the proposed house walls. So when you're measuring depth, it's unfortunate. That's how you have to measure it. But it's a bit of an artificial measurement because it makes the depth of the building longer when in fact the physical building is not any longer than what we're describing. So it's 0.66 more depth involved with our proposal because the line is outside to the west of the front corner. We're also measuring on an angle, which creates tricky and more difficult relationships because it measures to the diagonal of the corners. But Mr. Khan, please hear me again. We are trying to create here a renovation by saving as many walls as possible. But at the same time, we are pulling in, at the suggestion of the comments from the staff report, we are making the house shorter, therefore reducing the depth. But if we were to go to 19, we would take off 10 feet of the existing house. I think this is an anomaly here, and we're trying to say that, particularly when you have a neighbor immediately to the south at 1541 who has signed a letter of no objection, and one immediately across the street looking at the front door the same, not to suggest that there aren't letters of opposition, there of course are, but the most affected neighbor is okay with this because mostly it shortens the house from what it was to our proposal. So I ask you to take that into consideration as opposed to just a number.
Mr. Higgins, just give me, please.
Thank you, Mr.
Bring
Higgins.
the figure that you agree to.
Mr. Khan, did you have another question?
No, sir, I just want to know what is the new figure that he has in mind.
He's already
20,
made, Mr.
20
Khan, he's
point
already made his proposed changes. Okay, yeah, the change to number 4 was he's reduced it from 21.22 meters to 20.8 meters. He's reduced variance number 5 from 0.74, that's the FSI, to 0.72. Variance number 6, he's reduced from 9.01% to 7.80%. Are there any further questions of the speaker? We have no one else registered to speak on this item. So if I could get a motion on this application, please. Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Higgins, I really appreciate the changes you've made here today. I see clearly what you're offering, and I do know the area, and this is not far off from what that area entails in terms of variances. So I am going to put forward a motion to approve the application. I do see that you've met considerable changes that were requested, at least the modifications that staff had requested. So I'm going to make it subject to the modifications that you've made here today. And I'm trying to pull up exactly those amounts.
Would you like me to repeat them, Ms. Sankar?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind,
No,
right?
that's fine, no problem. Variance number 4. He's proposing to reduce the building depth request from 21.22 meters to 20.80 meters. Variance number 5, the floor space index, he's proposing to reduce from 0.74 times to 0.72 times. And variance number 6, the lot coverage for the ancillary building, which he was originally requesting a 9.01%, he's proposing to reduce to 7.80%. Those are the revisions.
Yeah, that's what I've noted here, and that's my motion.
Thank you. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your revised application has been unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman. See you later.
Item number 27, Mr. Kidd, you can come back. 117 Points Avenue.
Hi.
Yes, we have one person registered to speak. That's Farah Zili. Madam, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Excuse me, madam, could I get your full name and address, please?
Sure. My full name is Farah Zili. I'm the homeowner at 117 Points Avenue, Toronto, Ontario, M2N 1J3.
Okay, thank you, madam. We have one variance before us for the rear deck extension. I noticed that we have no comments from staff on this item, and we have no one other than yourself registered to speak on it. I will ask the committee if it has any questions or comments or would like a presentation. No questions or comments? Could I get a motion on this applicant, Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I find this variance very simple and minor. So therefore, I move that this application be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Someone to second Mr. Khan's motion. Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Madam, your application has been unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Item number 28. 15 Laverne Avenue. I have one person registered to speak. That's Ms. Evangelista. Madam, are you there?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I'm Evangelista on behalf of the owners of 15 Laverne.
Just wanted to indicate what you're asking for in the variances is very clear. We have no comments from staff on this application. So I'm just going to ask the committee if it has any questions or comments or if it would like a presentation. There being none, we have no one registered to speak on this application except the agent. And if I could get a motion on the application, please. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe the Ford is
Mr. Hunt, you're breaking up.
the Ford tests, and I would.
Oh.
Sorry, can you hear me?
You're breaking up on us. No, we can't hear you.
Okay, well,
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay.
There you're back again.
Oh, okay. I believe that the application meets the Ford tests, and as such, with no opposition, I would recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Someone to second
Move
Mr.
approval.
Hunt's motion. Mr. Khan seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Ms. Evangelista, your application's been unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have a good day.
Item number 29, 1 Mobile Drive. I have one person registered to speak. That's a Mr. David McKay, the agent. There is no one else registered to speak on this item. Mr. McKay, are you there?
Yes, I am, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, it was the issue of, putting in a, did we lose the internet? Hang on just a moment.
No, I'm still here, sir.
Okay, hang on just a moment. Here we are. You were just wanted to ask, sir, the application that you're proposing for the self-storage facility, I just wanted to be clear, the parking space requirement, which seems extremely high for a self-storage facility at 105 spaces, that's under the old North York bylaw, correct?
That is correct. This site is only subject to the North York bylaw, and we did confirm the number of parking spaces through a zoning certificate.
And you had a parking study done that indicates that the number of parking spaces you're proposing is sufficient for that type of use.
That's correct, sir. We did provide that to city staff, who did review it and confirm that it was
Yes, so
acceptable.
I noticed we have no objection. We have no objections from transportation services or city planning. I'll just ask.
Yes, and that parking ratio, sir, sorry to interrupt, was based on proxy sites of similar operations run by my client.
Yes, I remember reading that. I'll ask the committee if it has any questions or comments. Okay, there's no one else who's registered to speak on this item. If I could get a motion on the application, please. Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that this application be approved with the conditions. Receiving the information from the professionals in their respective field, I gather that the variances are not out of the ordinary for self-storage facilities. The proposed development is consistent with the goals of the provincial policy and official plan to intensify employment land. Variants do not create adverse impact on streetscape and adjacent properties. For reasons above mentioned, in my opinion, the requested variances are minor in nature. Therefore, I move that this application be approved, also complying the forest conditions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Khan. Someone to second that motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Sir, your application's been unanimously approved, subject to urban forestry conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of
Thank
the
you,
committee.
sir.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Item number 30, 116 Dell Park Avenue. I have one person registered to speak. That is Mr. Sean Galbraith. Are you there, sir?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Can I get your full name and address,
Great.
please?
Sean Galbraith, 1 Yonge Street. I'm a planner here on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just wanted to note that staff has registered no comments about this application. We have no one registered to speak in interest on the item. I'll just ask the committee if it has any questions or it would like a presentation. The variances you're requesting are very straightforward, so I'll just ask the committee.
One question, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Khan?
Sir, thank you. Mr. Gilbreth, would you be kind enough to explain the high percentage of lot coverage, which is a variance number 3?
So variance number 3, so the proposed building is in compliance with the length and depth requirements. The average in the area is 43%. So we're basically right at the average. The proposed building will facilitate adding additional living space and a new secondary suite, which are very much needed in the area.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Okay, thank you, sir. Any further
You're welcome.
questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on the application, please? Mr. Kidd?
Mr. Chair, I feel the requested variances are minor in nature and appropriate for the neighborhood. I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application.
Okay, thank you. Someone to second Mr. Kidd's motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Khan dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved without condition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Item number 31, 333 Greenfield Avenue. I have one person registered to speak. That's a Mr. Tadros. Sir, are you there? Mr. Tadros, are you there? Mr. Tadros, are you there? Mr. Tadros, one more time, are you there? Okay, we'll come back to this application. We'll move ahead to item number 32, 106 Courtly Boulevard. I have one person registered to speak. That's Mr. Higgins. Mr. Higgins, are you there, sir?
I'm here.
Yeah.
I am.
Just once
Ready
again,
and ready.
if you could give us your name and address, please.
Yes, certainly, if I can remember it. I haven't been at the office for 6.5 months. Peter
Sir,
James Higgins of Peter Higgins Architect Incorporated, 124 Merton Street, Suite 204, M4S2Z2, I think.
That's fine. Thank you, sir.
Close enough.
I just wanted to ask, have you seen the city planning report of the 14th of September? The staff is recommending that your application be refused. Now,
Yes, I
now,
no idea why.
Just let me finish.
Sure.
Would you like to defer the application to discuss this further with planning, or do you want to proceed today?
I'd like to proceed, please.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed. I'll give you 5 minutes to make a presentation, but remember, stick to your 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm representing Paul Pathak and his wife, Pooja Handa. And the reason for this stems back many years ago when we went to the Committee of Adjustment for this project and received clearance for approximately 62%. The reason we didn't go for more at the time was because we had an immediate neighbor who was being very difficult, and while we had lots of support, she kind of rallied the councillor who was silent on this one. And so we backed off so that we can get this house built. But the house was built with an empty shell of about half of the attic space with an elevator shaft. Nothing has been done. This is all very legitimate. My client's elderly father recently passed away. This third floor space was going to be for his mother and father. Now he wants to take care of his mother. And particularly in these days of COVID and the worry about going to some kind of an elder care, we think it's very appropriate that this be allowed. There is no change whatsoever. There should be photographs on file that I've taken and submitted showing that the roof doesn't change one iota in filling in under the roof line. There are letters of support from one immediate neighbor all across the street behind. We sent out 16 packages, this is our norm, to all the immediate neighbors. And I would say I'm quite pleased. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters of no objection. The house is built, as I say, it looks very nice. And the neighbors are very understanding that my clients want to bring his elderly mother to live with them up on the third floor. So they will eventually, with your permission, put in an elevator and put in a staircase, but presently it's all just raw space. And there are countless examples of similar 2.5-story style houses, which some of you might call 3 stories, but they're properly called 2.5 stories, that range everywhere from 1 times coverage to a whole slew of them in the high 0.7, 7.7, 7.8, 7.9, etc. And that information should be on your computers. We sent in a map showing quite a number of houses that were well above the 60%. In fact, they were all above 77%, 0.77. So this is not a new thing in this neighborhood. These properties are very valuable. There are families that need the space. But particularly, as you saw from the photograph, and okay, so thank you. There is the surrounding area with properties above 77%, I believe, 0.77. And as per the photograph, it's a handsome home. There are the 3 dormers across the front are blind dormers. There are trusses in behind them. So they my clients wanted a certain look. That is the look. But the rear facade, if you could show that, or the side, shows a single dormer that gives, there it is, that gives the required balcony that's been built, but it's not used. That is a window instead of a temporary window instead of door. So it's all been done legitimately with the understanding that at some point they'd be bringing the elders home with them. And now this is more important than ever with my client's father's death.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, the exterior of the building, the appearance, it's not changing, am I correct?
That you are absolutely correct.
Yeah, so the exterior of the building doesn't change. It's just that you're making interior changes that, because of converting the attic, adds in the floor space index.
That is absolutely correct. And for that reason, and considering how many properties in the neighborhood are at this kind of FSI, I was a bit surprised, to say the least, that the planning department didn't want to listen to my argument. I think it's a good argument.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of the speaker? There being none, we have no other people registered to speak on this item. If I could get a motion on the application, please.
Could I speak?
Mr. Khan?
Thank you, sir. Although it's an addition of the third floor, but I realize I see all these 1, 2, and 3 variances. They are exceeding the allowable limits. Variance number 1, 10.75 meter exceeds the allowable of 7.2, and the third story instead of 2 stories is also a little bit extra. And the variance number 3, floor space index, is double the amount of allowable 0.35. So in my opinion, all these 3 variances, 1, 2, and 3, they exceed the permissible limit or allowable limits. Therefore, I make the motion that this application be refused.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan's made a motion to refuse the application. All those in favor of that motion? Someone to second that someone to second that motion? I'm sorry. No one seconds that motion. Can I get an? Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Sankar, you second that motion? I'm sorry.
I do, Mr. Chair. I really wish that the applicant had chosen to defer this, because I don't agree with this at all.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Sankar, you're seconding Mr. Khan's motion to refuse. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Hunt dissenting. Mr. Higgins, your application has been refused. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to item number 31, which is 333 Greenfield Avenue. Mr. Tadros, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yusuf Tadros. The address is 333 Greenfield Avenue, Toronto, Ontario, M2N 3E7.
Okay, thank you, sir. I wanted to ask, have you seen the report from City Planning dated the 29th of September?
Yes.
Because they're recommending that variance number 2 for the rear deck projection and the rear deck height be refused, which I would take it.
The deck height is...
Sir, let me finish. Let me finish.
Yes.
Because they're recommending that variance number 2 be refused, I would take it that that would effectively destroy your proposal. Is that correct?
No, actually, the reason of the height is that the land natural slope of the land from the front to the back.
Okay, sir. Then can I ask, would you like to defer the application to discuss this issue with City Planning?
I discussed it already with them, and I sent actually a letter of explaining why it happened. There is a letter.
So you're not in favor of deferring the application?
No, because you see, I could not do anything. This is the height of the deck, cannot be changed, because it is less than the existing height of the deck. And because of the natural slope of the land, it resulted to that height.
Sir, start back at the beginning. Can you give the committee a brief presentation on why we should approve your application when we have a recommendation from, effectively a recommendation from City Planning that recommends refusing it? So if you have the opportunity to tell us why we should approve the application.
Because the height of the deck could not be reduced. It is less than the existing height of the existing deck. I dropped it 15 centimeters. And it had to be the same height that it is right now, because the deck has to be tied to the rim joist around the house. If I drop it less than that, it would be attached to the veneer, not the rim joist. And like I said, the natural slope of the land resulted to that height. Actually, that deck has been there for 34 years before.
Okay, all right then. I'll just ask the committee, does it have any questions? I also note that we have no one speaking an interest on this item, so if I could get a motion on this application, please. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the comments from the appellant and the recommendation from staff that the proposed rear deck be built with privacy screens abutting the east and west side properties, I would move approval of this with that condition in place.
Okay, thank you. Someone to second Mr. Hunt's motion? Mr. Kidd seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Ms. Sankar dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved, subject to the city planning condition that you install, that the proposed rear deck be built with privacy screens abutting the east and west side properties.
If my neighbors will accept that.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're now on item number 33. 9 Lionel Heights Crescent. I have one person registered to speak. That is Mr. Michael Stein. Are you there, sir?
I am. Good afternoon.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Stein. We have two variances before us, one for side yard setback and front yard setback. Very clear what you're asking for. We have no comments from any city division on your application. I'll just ask the committee if it would like a presentation or it has any questions. Okay, thank you. We have no other speakers registered for this item, so if I could get a motion on the application, please. Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move this application be approved. Variance 1 and variance 2 are minor in nature and meet the intent of the zoning bylaws. Therefore, the application be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Someone to second that motion?
Mr. Chair, isn't it subject to forestry?
No, there is no urban forestry comment on this one.
There's none on this one?
Let me just check.
For some reason, the report had shown that, but I didn't see one on here, but the original report at the beginning had said that, so I just wanted to double check.
There's nothing.
Ms. Shankar, none.
No, there's nothing from urban forestry. Okay, thank you. Someone to second Mr. Khan's motion. Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously, sir. Your application has been unanimously approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Item number 35, 5 Shamokin Drive.
34.
I have one person registered to speak, Mr. Arvand. Sir, are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Yes, thank you, madam. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Sure. My name is Arzu Arvand, address 20 Walker Road, and I'm the agent for 5 Shamokin Drive.
Okay, thank you very much. Just want to emphasize that the only staff comment we have on this application is from Transportation Services and on the 29th of September, and they have no objection to your proposal. I'll just ask the committee if it has any. It's very clear what you're asking for in the 4 variances we have before us. I'll just ask the committee if it has any questions or comments or it would like a presentation. Mr. Khan?
Sir, I just wanted to know myself, which item we are, 34 or 35?
This is item 34.
This one is 34?
5 Shamokin Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Sankar?
Yeah, I'm ready for a motion, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with this application. I believe it meets the 4 tests, no problems with transportation. I'll put forward a motion to approve as is.
Thank you, Ms. Sankar. Someone to second Ms. Sankar's motion? Khan seconds. All those in favor? The motion carries unanimously, sir. Madam, your application's been unanimously approved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Item number 35, 30 Irvington Crescent. We have 2 people registered to speak. One is the agent, Mr. Benskowski. Sir, are you there? Mr. Benskowski, are you there?
Yes, sorry, I am here.
No problem. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, Jonathan Benskowski, 301 Keewatin Avenue.
Thank you, sir. I don't know if you've seen the city planning report of the 29th of September. They indicated they have no objection provided that the proposal is developed substantially in accordance with the east elevation and west elevation drawings submitted to the committee and attached as attachment 1 and 2 to their report. Have you had a chance to read that report, sir?
I have.
Okay, thank you very much. We have one person who would like to speak on this item, sir. So if you could give us a very brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Yes, if we could go to my supporting material I submitted.
Okay.
So the application is to construct a new dwelling. The variance is requested for the building length. And I am not seeing my supporting material come up here on my end.
That's variance number 1.
Correct. And now I made some graphics. If we could bring them up on the screen.
Okay, sir, if you can proceed with your application.
Okay, well, my graphics would greatly aid my presentation as to where that length is being appropriated, that is being requested. Now, hopefully you did get it in your pre-circulation package. So if you were to look at these,
we have all
okay, perfect. Perfect. So if you look at the supporting material I submitted, you'll see that where that length is being appropriated is at a breakfast area that is on the first floor. So that 17.81 meters that is being requested is a 1-story projection that isn't located at either end of the house. It's appropriated in the middle of the house. The actual overall length of the dwelling, as we can see, that would face both adjacent neighbors is 16.21 meters and 16.08 meters. The projection is also skewed with length because of the curvature of the street. The way the zoning bylaw interprets that is from the closest portion to the furthest portion. Because of the bias of the street, it also skews that measurement slightly. Now, if we proceed to the second page of my supporting material, oh, now I see it's coming up. If we proceed to the second page, we'll see where the height request for the main side walls is being requested. I note that the request for the overall height of the building is only under the old North York zoning bylaw. The new City 569/2013 permits a 10-meter height, which is proposed before you today. So this 8.92 meters sidewall height is due to the projection that you see, and I put the measurement there of the side features that are actually located at the front of the house. So the 8.92 meter main wall height is actually not appropriated at the side of the house. That is a projection you see from the front of the house, which complies with the main wall height bylaw itself. Now, in terms of the coverage, that coverage increase really is kind of from that 1-story breakfast nook. And I think that's the important thing to notice is where these projections are coming from that are leading to the variances that are requested. So in terms of the length itself, it's just for that 1-story breakfast nook. We see that the actual overall length of the building is well below the 17 meters that is permitted under the zoning bylaw. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll just ask the committee, does it have any questions of the speaker? There being none, we'll move to the next speaker on our speakers list. I have a Helen Kwan. Are you there, madam? Ms. Kwan? Ms. Kwan, are
Hello?
you there?
Yes, yes.
Yes, hello, madam. Can I get your full
Hello.
name and address, please?
Yeah, Musu Kwan, 1037 Lillian Street.
Okay, thank you very much, madam. You have, if you'd like to give us your views on this proposed application?
Well, I just want to make sure especially that property looks like a very high for the side. Well, because it's my first time experience and someone is building the house right next to it. So,
Madam, your voice is drifting in and out. Can you turn off your speakerphone and just use it like a regular phone?
yeah, I mean, I just come to the basement, so the driving down to the garage, so that's why. Hello? Hello?
Yes? It's hard to hear you, madam.
Yes. Yes, so that's why I like to make sure it's doing a proper job and no make a normal, not much noisy and dusty. So I want to more likely finding, I want to have his contact number. So I want to discuss after. So, I don't want him to make too much nuisance to, the neighbor.
Okay, thank you, madam. Any questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this
Mr. Chair,
application, please?
Mr. Chair, if I may, we have one more deputant that wishes to speak, and Mr. Ron Baird.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barrett, are you there? Mr. Barrett, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Ron Baird.
Okay.
Address is 32 Irvington Crescent. I'm the property immediately to the east of the applicant.
Okay, thank you. If you could give us your views on this application, please.
So I did do quite a lengthy letter of objection. Not sure whether staff has reviewed that letter.
Yes, it's in our package.
Okay. In the staff report, I haven't noticed any feedback related to my objections being covered. I also do not see in the staff report a detailed variance request by variance request response. Just see very broad brushed statement regarding the height of the sidewalls. So I'm concerned that they haven't fully addressed all of the points of the variance request, and their response, in my opinion, is somewhat ambiguous in putting obligations on the applicant. So there's a few additional items that I'd like to discuss. Our primary objection is related to having such a large wall right adjacent to our backyard and our son's play area. It will significantly impact the shading of the area where he enjoys quite a lot of sunshine and warmth resulting from that. So he's able to enjoy the area into the fall and early spring without getting cold. So there's a few other issues. We've spent $35,000 plus landscaping our property, and the large rear second floor deck will take away quite a lot of our privacy that we currently enjoy in our property. and it will certainly impact the sun that we currently enjoy in our backyard. So it will have a significant detrimental effect on our quiet enjoyment of our property. I'm also concerned about the 2 mature trees. The excavations that will be required to build this property will jeopardize the potential health of those trees. And both of those trees really add to the streetscape and the enjoyment of our backyard. The additional impact that I have is the property length, or the building length does not truly cover the entire length of the building. They're talking about adding a 2nd floor deck. And although that's not part of the official building envelope, it is going to protrude back at the back of the house by another 9 feet, 9 feet 4 inches. And the front, it looks from the drawings, currently there's an open porch that you can see through. And the front projection looks like it's a solid enclosed porch area, and that will further reduce sight lines. And that protrudes, I think, based on the drawings, about 6 feet further from the front steps that are currently in the property. I'm concerned. I know the forestry, or I'm not sure what the department of the city is that looks after the trees. They were out. I haven't noticed any report in the application file online that comments on the tree health and impact to the trees. I also do not see any shade study or sightline study to show what the true impact to our property will be. So I'm very concerned about that. In my application, I did mark up some photos based on my best estimate of the restriction in views that we're going to
Sir, can you summarize
have on our property.
2 seconds?
So because of the limited information provided and the impact of our property, I'm requesting the Committee of Adjustments to deny all the variance applications put forth.
Thank you.
I think that they could develop a property
you.
that will.
Is there any questions of the speaker? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Baird.
Yes.
Did you bring up, I mean, I noticed you're talking about the trees and forestry department, but did you bring up this issue when you were talking to the developer or owner?
The developer never contacted us. The property has been vacant for the last year. And the first we heard that this property was being developed was about September the 28th, I believe, when we received the letter from the city. And when we received the letter of the city, I had to write this notice of objection within a day or two. And I had, many other issues going on. So I wasn't really afforded very much time to get this document drafted. The other thing that we are considering is to install solar panels, and having a high building right next to our roof line will basically eliminate the possibility of doing that. So to answer your question, the developer has not approached us at all.
But did you?
Okay.
We didn't even know who owned the house. We didn't even know.
Did you try to see the owner or agent or somebody and notify about the tree and the question you're raising?
We do not know who they are. We don't know the phone numbers of them or contacts. We don't even know who the owner is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of the speaker? Being none, we'll go back to the applicant. Mr. Benskowski, are you there, sir?
Yes, I am.
You have the opportunity to respond to the previous speakers.
Yes. So essentially, I'm not sure if there really was an objection from the first speaker. I think it more had to do with the construction process itself than the actual proposal. In terms of Mr. Baird, the adjacent neighbor at 32, what I can say about forestry is that forestry visited the site. As I'm sure you know, if there is no report in front of you, that would be there are no concerns of any trees being damaged. Not only that, they're not even requiring an arborist report for hoarding or anything like that. So the issues of trees being damaged, it really isn't one because there is no report from forestry asking for any type of conditions. The concern that has to deal with the height and the massing of it, as I mentioned, the house is built as per 569/2013's zoning bylaw of 10 meters. There is no request under the new zoning bylaw for height. In my package I circulated to you, that main wall, sorry, that side main wall height is due to a architectural feature at the front of the house that is visible at the side. The actual main wall height at the side of the dwelling is in compliance with the zoning bylaw itself. So, and lastly, speaking of a second floor deck, if we would like to bring up the plans, there is a second floor deck proposed, but that is a small kind of Juliet balcony at the front of the dwelling. There is no projection on the second floor for a walkout deck at all. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe there was a little bit of confusion with the plans. The second floor has no deck projection at all on it. It is just a standard second floor at the rear.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker? Can I get a motion on this application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I've heard what the debutante had said, and, I think that if there were this type of impact, it would have been there regardless of making these minor changes or not. I don't see that forestry had a part to play. Well, we haven't seen that they had any concerns. They do usually look through all of our applications. But if it would make them feel better, I will motion to approve this application because I do believe it's minor. It does fit the definition for me in minor, having seen many applications here before me today. And I do believe it meets the 4 tests, but I'll make it subject to forestry as well. And then any private agreement that they may want to have between each other about the privacy of the deck, that will be between them. And that's my motion.
Ms. Sankar, I'm advised that because it was circulated to forestry and they did have no comments, the advice from the secretary.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know because I did know that we do receive a list of forestry, so they must have done their due diligence. Yeah. So then I'll remove that clause. I'm going to motion to approve as is, and any private agreements about privacy screenings can take place. We've sort of publicly stated it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sankar. So, Mr. Hunt, second. All those in favor?
No.
No. Opposed? Mr. Khan, are you opposed? No, Mr. Khan.
Sir, I don't want to oppose. I simply want to add the east and west elevation drawings.
Okay, so are you opposed to Ms. Sankar's motion?
Outright, yes.
Okay, you're dissenting then. Sir, your application has been approved subject to city planning conditions with Mr. Khan dissenting. Yes, she did. She did indicate about the opaque screening. Ms. Sankar, I think you made that motion about putting in the screening that was described in.
No, I said that would be a private agreement.
Oh, I'm
but
sorry.
I did mean to say that it would be according to the staff report of September 29th, which Mr. Khan, I think, was alluding to, that the drawings be developed with the east and west elevation drawings submitted to the committee.
Let me just be clear then. think I muddled the waters a bit here.
I will agree to that.
Mr. Khan, just a sec. Ms. Sankar, you're recommending approval subject to the city planning condition of submitting with the elevation drawings? And did you also want privacy screening? No. Okay.
No, I thought that that would be their private agreement.
Okay, thank you. So it's just approval subject to the city planning condition. Okay, and Mr. Hunt and Mr. Kidd were in favor. Mr. Khan, you were opposed. No, Mr. Khan? Are you in favor?
Yes, sir, I'm in favor.
Okay, all right, so it's unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, sir, your application has been unanimously approved, subject to city planning conditions.
Thank you. Enjoy the afternoon.
Thank you. Item number 36, 33 Burncrest Drive. I have one person registered to speak, that is the agent. Mr. Ryuk, I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Are you there?
Yes, sir. It's Tay Rook. I'm the planner for the owners of the property at 33 Burncrest.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, have you had the opportunity to read the city planning report of the 14th of September? They indicate that they have no objection, provided that you install permanent opaque screening along the east edge of the rear deck with a minimum height of 1.5 meters from the floor of the deck. Have you had a chance to read that report?
Yes, sir. We've read it and we have no issues with that condition.
Okay, thank you, sir. It's very clear what you're asking for in the 5 variances before us. We have no one who's expressed interest on this item. I'll just ask the committee if it has any questions or it would like a presentation. Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Ruick,
yes.
My question is directed toward variance number 4. Would you be kind enough to explain to me very briefly why you need height 9.42?
Well, to be quite frank with you, sir, this is a flat roof that has resulted in a height variance of 10.2 meters. And if you look throughout the neighborhood, and if the committee could pull up the presentation slides that I had submitted in support of this application, there is an area context map that I had developed, which shows, it's on the second page, which shows properties that have been highlighted in green, that's lot coverages, but also in the diamonds, the yellow diamonds, these are also flat roofs that are in excess of 10 meters in height that are found on the street and throughout the neighborhood and within a 1 block radius. So this is something that's somewhat of common nature. And in addition to that, the 10.2 meter roof line, if you look at it compared to a pitch roof or a different style mansard roof, whatever the case may be, the eaves lines and the roof lines would be consistent. So this wouldn't be a sore thumb that sticks out above the adjacent properties or surrounding properties in terms of building height. It would be very consistent in terms of what you're seeing and as you walk down the streetscape, so it won't be something that protrudes beyond the adjacent buildings.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker? There being none, we have no other speakers registered on this item. Could I get a motion on the application, please? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I would take the recommendations of the staff and approve this application. The applicant is to provide permanent opaque screening along the east side of the rear deck with a minimum height of 1.5 meter from the floor of the deck.
I'm sorry, was that another question of the speaker, sir?
That was his motion.
Or is that a motion?
Yeah, that's a motion.
Okay, can you just summarize the motion to approve the application?
Subject to planning.
Yes, sir. I will summarize. The applicant to provide permanent opaque screening along the east edge of the rear deck with a minimum height of 1.5 meter from the floor of the deck.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm sorry. Someone to second Mr. Khan's motion? Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously, sir. Your application has been approved, subject to city planning conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Item number 37 and then 38 and 39. Mr. Kidd, you can You can go have a little break. Have a conflict on all three of those. So we'll start with item number 37, which is 511 Old Orchard Grove. I have 4 people registered to speak on this item, and the applicant is, the agent is Mr. Higgins. Sir, are you there?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. I don't know that would, I guess you should give us your name. I don't need to, you need to give us your address again. If I could ask, sir, have you had the opportunity to read the city planning report of the 14th of September? They indicate that they have no objection to the proposal, provided you install permanent opaque screening or fencing along the east edge of the proposed rear deck with a minimum height of 1.5 meters from the floor. Have you read that report?
I have read the report, and we had already noted on our drawings a 1.8 meter high privacy screen along that side.
Okay, thank you, sir. If you could give us, because we have 3 other speakers registered, if you could give us a brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your proposal.
Well, I'm thinking back to something that was before you this morning in a neighborhood not unlike this, that was a very modern looking house with a very boxy appearance. And the difference to that is, with our proposal, is that we have a sloped roof. The sloped roof is what gives it a more residential feel for this particular neighborhood, which is all sloped roofs. We have no gables, no vertical walls above the eave line, whereas we could have designed a house with dormers and gables that would have created more shadowing than the slight overage in the wall height would be. So we've hipped the entire roof, and by hipping it allows the sun into both immediate neighbors. This is a design that is not atypical of what is happening in many neighborhoods in North York, where the client requests a garage, integral garage at grade. This garage does have a positive slope from its sill to the street, to the curb line. As a result, we have the main floor perched above the garage. We are introducing setbacks that minimize or mitigate the size of the house by breaking up the plane of the facade into 3 parts, staggering the roof as well, horizontal banding, and the like. We have discussed this with the planning department. They haven't asked for any changes other than making sure we have that privacy screen on the east side. We did submit packages to many neighbors, and 16 packages, in fact. We know that there is opposition, and I'm happy to speak to that opposition as it comes up, just in the efforts of time. But we think we have a handsome design that is minimizing its impact on the neighbors, including the rear facade, again, with its stepped wall plane. But I'd say most importantly is the hipped roof. We're not trying to create a boxy modern house. We're trying to create something transitional that still looks like a house in the neighborhood with a nice sloped roof.
I think it's safe to say, sir, that on this street, it's pretty much a classic example of revitalization, where pretty much all the old original homes are the old original, I guess, say 1960s style 1-story bungalows. They're all pretty much gone. There's very few of them left. This is one of them. All the rest of them have been built in a style of the type that you're proposing. Is that correct?
Well, some have below grade garages before they were outlawed, below meaning down sloping. Yes, I would agree that most of the neighborhood is undergoing transformation, not just this street, but the surrounding area. And having the ability to park a car inside. In this case, we also have an elevator that is reachable and reachable from the garage at level, so that the clients who are in their 70s and getting on in years can live in this house for the rest of their lives. So that was a very important way to design this. The elevator shaft, of course, adds to the floor space index. But there you go. I think we've got a very handsome design that fits in. I'm happy to speak to your questions or any of the neighbors' comments.
Thank you, sir. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, I'll go to the first person I have on the speakers list. Mr. Frank Pong, are you there, sir? Mr. Pong, are you there, sir?
Hi. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. If I could get your full name and address, please.
It's Frank Pong. I'm at 509 Old Orchard Grove, right beside the proposed property that is being constructed.
Okay, thank you. You can give us your views on the subject application?
So I just respectfully direct the committee's attention to the detailed letter that represents the views of basically the neighbor to the left as well as to the right, as well as the neighbors that surround, that face this property. So these views are basically the views of basically the 9 neighbors that immediately surround this house. Generally, I would say that we object to the overall size of this house, that there are no less than 10 variances that are basically proposed. And I think that because of the intention of basically oversizing this house on this lot precipitates a bunch of other variances that are being proposed here. I have a personal view as to the overall width of the house, namely the side setback that basically is proposing to narrow the space between 509 Old Orchard Grove as well as and this proposed property. I would say that the earlier comment with regards to this house, it is a somewhat boxy design, and overall, I don't think it fits in with the overall landscape of this street. My visual walk of the streets, there are a lot of houses that have basically, have been built, and there are a lot of, obviously, there are very few bungalows, but in our view, we think that the overall size of this house, both the width as well as the depth that is being proposed, represents not 10 minor variances, but taken collectively, they basically represent a major variance. And I don't think that any of the neighbors object to the overall construction of a new home. But I think the wishes were that they would actually respect the variances or the bylaws that have been put in place for a reason. And so I would say generally that is our primary concern. I have a concern with regards to both the length and the height of the proposed deck that's in the back. Like the earlier call that I heard earlier, I myself have sunk $30,000 into my backyard. I have intentionally kept our deck very low to basically respect the privacy of our neighbors. And regardless of whether there is going to be 4 trees that are basically proposed in this plan to present, this deck is going to essentially overlook, into my yard, and it will definitely impact the privacy of my quiet enjoyment of the backyard. So I have a concern about that. I was mentioning the issue of the height of the house, and I think that because the height of the house, if you look in the drawing that was presented, it is a substantial difference in comparison to the houses that are on the street. Now, there might be an argument to suggest that if you look 3 blocks north and 3 blocks south, that you may be able to find enough examples to suggest that there were variances that were proposed. But unfortunately, as I sort of look to the houses, halfway down the block in either direction, this does actually represent a variance. And I'm afraid that it actually, in the view of the neighbors, that it does affect the overall look of the streetscape, and it doesn't fit in with the overall look of this street. So, generally, those are my concerns. The committee does have our detailed letter that does represent 9 neighbors that are directly beside as well as in front. So I would ask this committee to respectfully consider the concerns of the neighbors as opposed to the interest of the single homeowner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker? There being none, our next speaker on our list is Andrew Salomon. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, sir. If you could have the opportunity to give us your views on the subject, but I'd also emphasize, please don't tell us stuff we've already heard. Tell us something new.
Right. No, that's fair. I agree with everything that Frank had mentioned previously and all the details in the letter. In addition to that, I'd like to object to the window well that's going to be next to my driveway there. I'm concerned about what happens in the winter when we shovel snow and that's going to go down their window well and could cause issues. I also think that there's a large amount of windows on the west wall of this new proposed house. So I object to that. So those are my views in agreement with what Frank has already said.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker? There being none, we'll move on to the next speaker on our list, Mr. Robert Brakeman. Are you there, sir?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Can I get your full name and address, please?
Yeah, my full name is Robert Bobby Brickman. Address is across the road, 512 Old Orchard. And so I guess really what I want to speak to was I want to confirm, and I just more as a clarity because I couldn't tell from the drawing. It was a little bit unclear in terms of what trees were remaining and how the front of the yard was supposed to work. So if just if the owner can just provide some clarity, are those 2 trees that are currently fenced in, are they remaining? Is the driveway being extended or is it remaining kind of like a 1-car into? I just wanted a bit of clarity. I saw the picture and I was trying to understand it from that, and that's really what I want to speak to.
Well, we'll ask the applicant when he comes back to address answer your question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
Any questions of the speaker? We'll go back to Mr. Higgins. Are you there, sir? Mr. Higgins?
Well, just to work backwards regarding the last comment from Bobby, yes, there are actually 3 trees to be saved in the front yard.
Okay.
And the tree in front of 509 is not being injured in any way. The driveway is staggered from where it enters the house to a single driveway width so that it will not injure at all tree number 2 or tree number 1, which are the trees closest to the street. So I think that answers that question. Regarding, I believe it was Andrew, I didn't catch your last name, about the window well and the number of windows. We're certainly willing to negotiate on the number of windows. I didn't hear from anyone that it was a concern. But I need to get clarification because my understanding is the letter from Frank Fong noted that he owns both 509 and 513, which is each side of the house, and yet Andrew was referring to window wells along his driveway. Am I to assume that 515 is rented out? That's a question that can be asked. Window wells happen all the time. I really don't think that there's anything to worry about there. In terms of snow shoveling, there's a large side yard setback from that driveway. What else would I like to say? I'd like to state that in terms of some of the variances, the front yard setback is an example. We try not to have that, but it's simply the 1-story portion of the garage that extends out slightly beyond the required setback. 60% of the wall is at the second 2-story wall is at the required setback, and 40% of the rest of the front wall is behind the setback. So it kind of all averages out, in my opinion. The two-story length of the house on the east side, where we're closest to the neighbor, is 17.7 meters versus an allowable of 17. Yes, the building length overall is longer than that, but we've tried to minimize the length of the wall adjacent to the east side. There had been some concern in the letters about fireproofing and fire breaking out, given the proposed east side yard setback of 0.9 meters. The wall will be constructed in non-flammable material, all brick with special drywall on the inside. It'll all be done to code. Any windows that need openings there, and there aren't that many, we will use proper fire shutters so that they will not cause any kind of a fire outbreak. So I hope that helps Frank Pong understand that we've addressed that. I go back to the height. We do have a height overage for wall and overall height, but it is hipped. There are no gables, there are no dormers, and so it lessens the impact of that roof for certain. Number 9, which is the proposed finished height of the house, is measured from the center line of the road. This is one of the old bylaws that are slowly being removed. We certainly meet the requirements at the front of the new bylaws. And you know, the first comment I think from Frank was about it being a very boxy design. I think once built, you would not think that it is. It's certainly far from what you see in the neighborhood of flat roofed, simple, flat planed, boxy designs. This has, I think, a lot of character to it, a lot of movement to it, and it will, I believe, work well in the neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker?
It's Frank Pong. May I maybe clarify, answer a question
No,
that was
sir,
raised?
sir,
Oh,
we're finished. We're in committee now. Thank you very much.
All right.
Can I get a motion on the application, please? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will take the recommendations of the staff and I will make the motion to provide permanent opaque screening along the east edge of the proposed rear deck with a minimum height of 1.5 meter from the floor.
Okay, so you're recommending approval subject to that city planning condition?
That's right, sir.
Yes. Someone to second Mr. Khan's motion? Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Sir, your application has been approved subject to city planning conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and
Thank
committee.
you. Now on item number 38, 60 Limbstone Avenue. I have 5 people registered to speak. Mr. Higgins is the agent. Let me just go to the application. Mr. Higgins, are you there?
I am, sir.
Okay. Have you had the opportunity to read the city planning report of the 29th of September? They're recommending modifying the application to eliminate variance number 10, which is regarding the building height, reduce variance number 11 regarding the side exterior main wall height from 8.45 meters to below 8 meters. Now, are you proposing to make those changes?
I'm proposing to make very slight modifications.
Okay, are you proposing to make some modifications then? Can you let the committee know what those are?
If I may, I'd like to speak to them as I go through the modifications.
Okay then, but let's do so.
Okay. I'm sorry, I've got 3 in a row and I'm just trying to check on something. Does the committee, please don't put me on the 5-minute yet. I have had virtually no visuals all day, and we all know this is tricky to make presentations when you're not in front of each other. Do you have available a a photograph that has an overlay of the working drawing of a facade, because part of the overage in height is invisible to the street. And the photograph would show that
Well,
clearly.
Mr. Higgins, it might be better if you're proposing to make modifications, just tell us what those modifications are now, and then you can go back with the justification later. Okay?
Okay.
So if you want to tell us what changes you're proposing, if you could list those to us now.
All right. I'm sorry, we had asked for a little bit of relief between each hearing. I've had 7 today, and I have 3 packed together, and it's needless to say quite tricky. I've got papers all over my desk at home, which doesn't help. Okay. Number one remains the same.
Number 1's the same, okay? Just the ones that you're changing.
Well, if I may, I would like to do it my way, because
Mr. Higgins, would you like to hold this down so you can organize yourself and we'll go to the next item?
Well, the next item is mine, and then
okay, we'll go to the other ones that aren't yours, then we'll come back to yours. I'll give you some time.
That would be very helpful, because I actually would like to be able to call my client on this matter. So thank you, Mr. Matt. If you would.
Okay, Mr. Higgins, I'll stand this down. We'll come back to you, okay?
I appreciate it. I'll keep my audio on. Thank you.
Okay. Actually, you're on next anyway. I'll go to item 40. That is 2586 Yonge Street. Mr. Kidd, you can come back. Okay, thank you. I have a Mr. Jonathan Cheng. Are you there, sir?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Great.
Now, just wanted to ask, I had, there's a report from the 30th of September from Transportation Services, and they're recommending that your application be deferred. Have you had the opportunity to review that letter?
Yes, I read that report from last week recommending deferral for more information to be provided. I've since spoken with transportation staff as recent as this past Monday, and I've clarified for them that the new bylaw requires 4 spaces, whereas only 2 parking spaces exist. And with that clarification, I understand that transportation staff also have no objections to this variance.
That's okay. We don't have anything from them that states that, but I take it then that you don't want to defer your application.
Correct. I'd like to proceed today. Thank you.
Okay, now I have one person registered to speak on this application. So if you want to give us a very brief explanation of why the committee should approve your application, if you could give us that explanation, sir.
Sure. Is that one person just me?
Pardon me?
Is that one person just me?
No, there's another, must be someone in the area who has expressed interest.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to take the 5 minutes then.
Well, you have a maximum of 5 minutes. If you can make your case in less, that would be most
Perfect.
appreciated.
Thank you. And I see my materials are on the screen now. So good afternoon. I'm Jonathan Cheng. I'm counsel for Yonge Street Animal Hospital. My client operates a veterinary hospital in the basement and ground floor of the 3-story building at 2586 Yonge Street. What we're seeking today is a very technical variance. It's just one variance, and it relates to an existing exemption to the parking requirements under the new zoning bylaw. I want to be very clear. The vet hospital use is already permitted as of right under both the former and the new zoning bylaws. What we're dealing with here is simply modifying a grandfathering exemption for parking space requirements. Now, I've discussed this application with planning staff, and I understand they have no objections. And as I mentioned, I've also spoken with transportation staff, and I understand they also have no objections to the variance. So perhaps just by way of high-level overview, if you can turn to the first page on my slide, it's an Apple map that I took a screenshot of. And on the property, you can see, if you can just turn up to the first page of the slide, this is a 3-story building that's attached on the north and south sides, forming a building complex. The building complex spans across 6 properties, all under different ownership. And all 6 of these properties share vehicular access from Albertus Avenue through the rear portion of each lot. So this is basically a right-of-way that provides access to the parking spaces for each property. And you see in this third page right here is a site plan. The screen is just gone now, but there's a site plan which shows that there are 2 parking spaces associated with our property. And you can see from the site plan that between the building footprint, the shared access drive aisle, and the 2 existing parking spaces, there's not a lot of room left over. And on the 4th page of that slide deck is a street view of the building complex. This complex was constructed around 1975. It's quite some time ago. It predates the new zoning bylaw in 2013, as well as the former zoning bylaw in '86. In terms of parking, the vet hospital use complies with the requirements of the former zoning bylaw. The trouble is actually with the technical provision under the new bylaw, which deals with introducing new uses to older buildings. And I'd like to walk you through these technical provisions if I can. It's just at the last page of that slide deck. If you could kindly just move to the last page on the presentation screen. I've covered in greater detail in the cover letter these provisions, but if you can see, if we can get the moderator just to pull up the last page. Regulation 200.5.10.11. Just one more page down, please. This regulation applies for lawfully existing buildings, buildings that were built before the zoning was passed in 2013. And what it says is if you have a change in use in a lawfully existing building, you need to provide the additional parking spaces associated with that new use. So under the rates of the new bylaw, in this case, when you move from retail use to a vet hospital use, you need to provide an additional 2 parking spaces for that vet hospital, which brings the total requirement to 4 parking spaces. Now, if you look at the second half of that page, I've excerpted Regulation 200.5.200.40. This is a grandfathering provision for buildings that were built on or before March 1st, 94. And the implication is if I fall within the 4 corners of this exemption, where there's a change of non-residential use of the building, for example, going from retail to a vet hospital, no additional parking spaces are required for that new use. So there are 3 requirements to fall under this exemption, this grandfathering exemption. The first is that I be in a CRSS2 zone, which we are. The second is that the building be built on or before March 1st, 94, which it is. And the third is that the building covers a minimum 75% of the lot area. And unfortunately, in our case, the building only covers 63% of that lot area. So what we want to do is we want to vary this exemption so that it applies to our property. In our case, it's a building that covers 63%, not 75, but 63% of the lot area. And in our view, our situation meets the intent of this exemption. This is a lawfully existing building that was built prior to the zoning being passed, and it's on a site which, between the building footprint, the drive aisle, and the 2 parking spaces, there's not a lot of room
sir. Can you summarize?
For additional parking. Thank you, sir. So the variance would encourage the mixed-use vibrancy of this area. This is a vet hospital that provides a key service for the surrounding community, and it encourages the introduction of a new non-residential use in an older building.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Can I ask, the area that the veterinary hospital is going into, what was it used before? What was its previous use?
I believe it was retail, so there's been a range of retail uses in that space.
You don't know, for example, what exactly that retail use was, do you?
I'm just looking through my cover letter. I believe we referenced it based on conversations with the landowner. Craft shop, wool store, home decor store, soap and bathware, and reproduction store. So a variety of retail uses.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a bit confused, and maybe you could clarify for me. You've requested 4 variances, none of which address the issue of additional parking spaces for a building covering at least 75% of the lot, whereas yours covers 63. So I'm just like some clarification as to what you're asking for.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure we're on the right item. I'm only requesting 1 variance. And the language of the variance is set out in the cover letter as well as the zoning waiver. It says, no additional parking spaces are required for a change in the non-residential use of a lawfully existing building that covers at least 75% of the lot area, whereas the lawfully existing building covers 63% of the lot area.
Correct. Okay, then maybe I'm confused here. Are we not on item 40?
Mr. Hunt, could you repeat that? I don't think you got.
Are we on item 40?
Yes,
40.
40. This was the one that went out previously and had the notices 5 Shamokin Drive in it. And we got the revised agenda with the proper variance for 2586 in it. Mr. Hunt, yeah, so just to avoid the confusion, the variance that they're requesting is that no additional parking spaces are required for a change in the non-residential use of a lawfully existing building that covers at least 75% of the lot area, whereas the
Correct.
lawfully existing building covers 63% of the lot area. That's the only variance they're going for.
Okay, well then I've got my documentation for number 40 has got 4 variances. So
No,
I must be confused.
Mr. Hunt, that's when the original agenda was sent out.
Right.
That they put the variance for 40 Shamokin Drive under 2586. That's why you see 4 variances. It's an error. Go by
Okay.
the variance
All right.
request that's up on the screen.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions of the speaker? Mr. Ms. Sankar?
Sorry. Mr. Chair, this isn't really for the speaker per se, but if planning, did they get anything updated from transportation?
The only thing we got from transportation, Ms. Sankar, was that they recommended deferral because of the issue of the parking supply. But the applicant just went through his parking supply rationale in his presentation and indicated that he's met with transportation and satisfied them, although we don't have a revised email from them.
But we don't have anything that says that, you know, I mean, so anyone can say whatever they want, unless it's in front of me with that type of documentation. I don't have any way of proving that. That's not evidence that I could consider.
No, that's true.
That's all I wanted to
Yes,
ask. Thank you.
Mr. Khan, you had a question?
Yes, sir. I think partly Ms. Shankar has addressed. And the other one that I want to ask is they are short of 2 parking. And that is a concern.
No, it's.
May I respond to that, Chair?
Mr. Khan, what I'll do is I'll let the applicant, sir, are you there? Mr. Cheng, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
You heard the
Can you hear
question
me?
from Mr. Khan?
Yes.
Okay, do you want us to reply to it, please?
Sure. So with respect to the discussion of the transportation, I had spoken with Luigi Nicolucci, and he said he would try and put a revised report on, but he wasn't sure if he could make it in time. So that's the last I spoke to him on that. And on the point about the 2-space deficiency, it's actually a technical issue. Under the former zoning bylaw, we comply. Only 2 spaces are required. It's because of this technical provision under the new bylaw that when we change the use, and I just want to make it very clear, there's no alterations being proposed. There's no built form changes. We're just changing the use from a retail to a vet hospital use. We have to because of the technical provision, provide all the spaces that are associated with that new use under the new bylaw rates. And there is a grandfathering provision here in the new bylaw that specifically contemplates these buildings that were built in 1994 or earlier that cover a significant area of the lot and for which no additional spaces can really fit in. And we, in our submission to you, believe that we fit the intent of this. There's no space left for more spaces. And so we're just trying to change the 75% number to 63%, because in addition to 63% of the lot being covered by the building, there's also a drive aisle and the 2 existing parking spaces.
Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chen, my question is, you are asking for grandfather provision as well as a technical provision. Is there any time period cap that you can or you cannot apply?
No, sir. The building was built in 1975. It's grandfathered, but the way that the regulation reads, it only applies to buildings that cover 75% of the lot area. In this case, it's 63% of the lot area. There's no time limit for us to seek this variance.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have one speaker registered to speak on this item, a Miss Qtajar. Are you there, sir? Madam, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, madam. You
Yes,
have the opportunity to tell the committee what's your view on this application.
Thank you, Chair. I am a local resident living nearby, and I understand that this structure was built in 1975. And I was asking also that the Committee of Adjustments consider and make conditions to this application regarding the parking. The facility has requested 2 more parking spots, or 2 spots, which they have labeled that it is parking for the veterinarian, and they have been using this for the last 6 months. I'm requesting consideration with the transportation staff or services that the vet and or several of his staff use those parking spots. Currently, they are in violation of Chapter 950 regarding traffic and parking. Article 4, Section D, subsection 5. The vet and his many staff, whether it is the second vet, the groomer, the technicians, the receptionists, park in excess of 8+ hours a day on Albertus and on Briar Hill. Those 2 parking spots are not sufficient for the staff, let alone any people that are using the services. So my request is that those spots are used for staff.
Well, madam, there's no parking variance being requested.
They are currently not using those spots.
It doesn't matter, ma'am. This isn't a, they're not requesting it. They're not a parking variance is not required here.
It looks like that the purpose of this application is a variance to the parking.
No, it's not. It's a variance to what I would call it. I'll let the applicant speak to that, but it's not technically a parking variance. No, it's not. But I'll refer it back to Mr. Cheng. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? No, we'll go Mr. Cheng. You've heard the comments from the previous speaker. If you'd like to reply to those.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And
Yes,
sir, I also think you need to make your case on, as Ms. Sankar's noted, we don't have anything from transportations indicating that they no longer have any objection to this proposal. So you're going to have to make the case that you have enough parking for your staff and your customers.
Yeah, so I think it's quite unfortunate that we don't have the updated staff report in time for this meeting. It certainly is in your discretion if you want to see additional support or reports from transportation to defer. I'd ask you to consider, we've gone through in the cover letter quite a bit of detail in terms of the technical nature of this variance. the calculation that's required under the old bylaw, the new bylaw, and the variance that we're seeking. In response to the speaker, I agree with you, Mr. Chair. It's not a parking variance, it's a variance to a grandfathering exemption. If there are concerns with parking violations on the street, those are appropriately dealt with through parking enforcement. This is strictly a technical variance to a grandfathering exemption through the Committee of Adjustment process.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of the speaker? There being none, could I get a motion on this application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I still have major concerns regarding the fact that there's no evidence on file that any discussions with transport has taken place. Despite however you want to cut it in terms of the explanation of how this came about, the fact is that we asked at the beginning, should there be a deferral? We were told no. You wanted to proceed with the application, and so now I'm going to move in terms of what is before me, and what's before me does not give me enough evidential, data to make an informed decision. And the more I hear about it, the more confused I become. And so we do, as committee members, rely on specialists in various areas to provide us with the knowledge base that we may not have in order to make the correct decisions and sound decisions we could stand by. So for that reason, I'll move to refuse this application.
Thank you, Ms. Sankar. Somebody to second Ms. Sankar's motion. Mr. Khan seconds. All those in favor? And motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been unanimously refused. Thank you very much, sir. We'll go back. Then we'll go back to 41. Okay. Yeah, we'll go do item number 41. I have 459 Hopewell Avenue. I have one person registered to speak, and Mr. Gabe Ferrone. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask, have you read the report from Transportation Services that's dated, let me see here, 29th of September?
Yes, I have.
So you realize they're still asking for another deferral. We deferred it back some time ago so you could discuss this with transportation. Now they're here again asking for another deferral. What did you discuss with them?
Unfortunately, the original agent is not around, is not with us anymore. In that discussion, all that was asked from transportation was to revise the site plan to show 2 parking spots, and that the vehicle maneuvering diagrams weren't necessary. So we revised the site plan, got a new zoning review, and asked for a reschedule. But now they're asking for the VMDs. So I got a transportation engineer putting those drawings together so I can hopefully get a deferral today and forward those to transportation and hopefully meeting. And I apologize for wasting the
well, it's not so much our time as you're wasting your own time. Do you want to defer the application again?
Yes, please. Yes.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. We have a motion from the applicant to defer it, so they meet with transportation. Mr. Hunt, can I get a motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the request of the applicant, I would move a motion to defer sine die this application.
Thank you. Can I get someone to second Mr. Hunt's motion? Mr. Khan seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries. Sir, your application's been deferred to the next available meeting. Good luck, sir.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Okay. Ladies and gents, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. We'll come back. We okay to go, Brendan? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, committee's back in session. We're going to go to item 42, 3167 Bayview Avenue. I have 4 people registered to speak. I have a Mr. Zhang, Shensu Zhang is the agent.
Yes.
Are you there?
Yes.
Sir, I just wanted to ask, have you had the opportunity to read the 2 things? There's an Engineering and Construction Division report of the 18th of November 2019, indicated they had no objections to your application, subject to the standard severance consent conditions. We have a report from City Planning dated the 29th of September, which indicated they were okay, I guess, with the consent, subject to standard consent conditions, but they wanted variance number 2 relating to the number of stories for Part A. They wanted that variance for the 3rd story refused. Okay.
Yes, we have already.
Now, let me finish.
Okay.
Then, of course, if it was approved, it's subject to being conditional on it being built according to the submitted plans. I would take it that eliminating that 3rd story would be a substantial change to your application. Have you discussed this with planning?
Yes, I have already discussed with the examiner. We have changed the drawings, and then yesterday we received a new zoning review report. Now we can eliminate the variance number 2 and number 6. Okay, both will be to be removed.
So are you proposing to remove variance number 2, which is the proposed number of stories is 3? Are you proposing to delete that variance for Part A?
Yes.
Okay, so you're deleting that.
Yeah, and also delete the number 6. The number 6 said that is a balcony, but actually it is a deck when the number of stories become 2 stories.
Hang on a second, sir. Variance number 2 for Part A, you're deleting. That's the proposed number of stories is 3. That's you're deleting that. Are you proposing to make any further revisions?
No.
Okay, well, that's fine. Okay. So
and actually, because that variance is removed, the number 6 is not necessary either.
Well, that's what I asked you, sir. Are you so you're removing variance number 6?
Yes.
For Part A.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you're eliminating variance 2, and you're eliminating variance 6 for Part A.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the changes you're proposing.
Yes.
Oh, terrific. Thank you. If you could give us a very brief presentation on what you see as the merits of your revised application, please.
Yes, the application including severance application to sever that lot into 2 lots, and also change the entrance to the access from the street to the north from Bayview to the Burncrest Drive. So we will close that access from the Bayview Avenue, and we'll propose 2 access to the from Burncrest Drive. So and then on each of the lots we propose the residential units, and for that one, we have a couple of variances, and actually all the variances are minor and technical. So basically, the main reason is that because the lots are extremely irregular. So, and we also discussed with the councilor. She supported to move the access to the lots from Bayview to Burncrest Drive. And also, she has no issue with the proposed severance. And then, what else? Do you want me to go through the variances?
Well, you still have time left if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, the variance, like we start with from part B. So 6 variances. The first one is for the new lot area is slightly smaller than required. Both lots have required frontage. And the second variance about the rear yard is the required rear yard setback is 7.98 meters. We reduced it to 7.71, like 27 centimeters shorter. And the number 3 is for the sidewall height. We increased from permitted 7.5 meters to 7.33 meters, minor change. And the front yard setback, we reduced it from 7.25 to 508 meters. And then the 5th one variances is about the deck that encroached to the rear yard 1.633 meters. And the 6th one about the building height for the old bylaw. The design building complies with the height limit of the new bylaw, but for the old bylaw, we increased it from 8.8 meter to 9.43 meters because of the location of the building. So for part A, the first one is about the wall height. We increased from 7.5 to 8.22. And then number 2 is unlimited. Okay. Number 3 is about the lot size. The bylaw requires minimum lot size of 690 square meters. We proposed 573.26 meters. And one of the reasons is a small portion of the lot will be conveyed to the city. So the number 4 is about the lot frontage. So the bylaw requires minimum frontage of 18 meters. We have proposed 17.47 meters, about half a meter shorter. And number 5 is the coverage. The bylaw allows 30% coverage. We proposed 31.8%.
Sir, can you summarize, please?
6 is delayed.
Sir, can you summarize?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Number 6 is delayed. Number 7 is the.
Okay, sir, you have to finish up. Your 5 minutes is up. Okay, thank you. We have.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any questions of the speaker? There being none, we'll move on to our other registered speakers. I have Ajit Bapat. Are you there? Ajit. Ajit Bapat, are you there? Yes, hello, sir. Are you there? Ajit Bapat, are you there? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next person. Elaine Berger, are you there? Elaine Berger, are you there? Okay. Next on the list, Howard Wunsch, are you there?
I am.
Yes,
Yes, I
sir.
am.
Sir, can I get your full name and address, please?
Howard Wunsch, 244 Burbank.
Okay, you have the opportunity to tell the committee of your views on this application.
Okay. The first question that we have has to do with the existing structure. It's our understanding this is a house that goes back to 1939. This is information that we've pieced together over the last couple of days. The original location of this house was at 251 Burbank. And when 251 Burbank was built, the original farmhouse was moved to its current location of 3187. So we are questioning if this is more of a heritage site and a property that should not be removed because of its historical nature.
Sir, if it was a heritage site, they would have informed us. It's not a heritage site. It's not a heritage.
Okay, if that's a definitive statement. Second area of concern is that there was a development at 246 Burbank, which is the house next door, which is, and I'm next door to that one, so I'm 2 away from 3187. There were significant issues with the building of that house due to table water, and they had to come back and do some extra digging. It appears that there were some problems with the table water. Coincidentally, at the same time, there was flooding across the street on Burbank and erosion on the Ravine Hill. Toronto Conservation has been involved, and there's still, from my understanding.
Sir, the committee doesn't deal with drainage issues. I'll read this paragraph from the report from our engineering and design construction section. In conjunction with a building permit application, to ensure that the development of the subject lands does not create a drainage problem to this or abutting lands, the applicant must submit a lot grading plan to the building division in accordance with the building division's policy on building and drainage for infill housing. So that issue will be dealt with through our design and construction section.
Okay, that's good to hear. And I guess how these two small lots fit into the existing area, is that how is that dealt with? Because they're talking about much smaller lots, and all the adjoining lots are much larger, despite what the bylaw might say.
Sir, have you read City Planning's report?
No. Well, I read it very briefly because we just got a notice of this very recently.
Well, at least 2 weeks ago. They're indicating, planning indicates that the proposed severance proposes to create a rectangular shaped lot that is consistent with the lot shapes found within the study area, in addition to a smaller triangular lot is similar in shape to the existing lot being severed. Planning staff are of the opinion that the existing lot is a unique circumstance and can be distinguished from the lots within this particular neighborhood. So they have no objection to severing the lot.
Okay.
It's consistent with the neighborhood.
All right, that was it from me.
Okay, thank you. Is any questions of the speaker? I'll just go back to see if these other speakers are here. Elaine Berger, are you there? Okay. Mr. Ajit Bapat, are you there? No. Thank you. We'll go back to Mr. Zhang. Mr. Zhang, you have the opportunity to address the concerns raised by the previous speaker.
Oh, yes. I think, as you said, we are going to have a civil engineer deal with the drainage and servicing issues. I don't think there are any big issues about the construction. And in fact, many people like to change the road because currently the owner experience difficulties to get their car access to the Bayview Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions of the speaker? There being none, we have, as I indicated, we have Can I get a motion on this application, please? Mr. Kidd? Now, remember, Mr. Kidd, before we start, there has been a change to the variance application for Part A. Variance is number 2 relating to the number of stories, which is 3 story, has been deleted, and variance number 6 has been deleted. And that's for Part A.
Right. Mr. Chair, in my opinion, the application is of a minor nature and appropriate for the neighborhood. I'd like to put forward an amended motion to accept the application with regard to the consent application. I'd like to make it conditional to the standard set out in the planning staff report dated September 20th, 2020. And with regard to the minor variance applications, I'd like to make it as amended to delete variance number 2 and number 6 with regard to the number of stories for the proposed dwelling, Part 3 on the draft R plan, to eliminate those variances, and also for proposed dwelling, Part 2 and 3 on the draft R plan to be developed in substantial accordance with the site plan drawings attached. And finally, the condition that with respect to the proposed dwelling on Part 3 draft of the draft R plan is to be developed in substantial accordance with the north and south side elevation drawings attached.
And there's also urban forestry condition. Okay, so.
And subject to urban forestry.
Thank you, Mr. Kidd. Someone to second Mr. Kidd's motion. Ms. Sankar seconds. All those in favor? Opposed? Mr. Hunt is opposed, dissenting. That motion carries. Sir, your application has been approved subject to engineering and construction conditions, city planning conditions, and urban forestry conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll go back to item number 38, 60 Limbstone Avenue. Is Mr. Higgins, are you still there?
I'm alive and well and ready to go.
Okay, Mr. Higgins, you had indicated you wanted to make some changes to this application at 60 Limbstone Avenue.
Yes, please, if I may, I'll read through the list and
Sure.
tell you, and then I'll go back and explain
Sure.
things. We would like to raise the floor space index to
What
0.56.
What variance
Oh, I beg your pardon, number 8.
Okay, number 8. Okay.
From 0.575 to 0.565.
Okay.
Additionally, I would like to remove number 4 altogether.
Number 4 is deleted.
Correct.
And that's the
Number
rear deck.
10.
The number 4 is the rear deck projection.
Correct. So as we said already, number 8 was modified to 0.565. We'd like to modify number 10 to 10.45 height.
Hang on just a moment. So you're proposing to change variance number 10
Correct.
from 11.16 meters to what?
10.45.
10.45. Okay. Any more?
Like to modify number 11
Mr. Higgins, you eliminate number 10,
No,
and now you are modifying.
Hang on a
Beg
second.
your pardon. No, I didn't eliminate number 10, Mr. Khan. I reduced it from 11.16 to 10.45.
Okay, so that's the extent of the modifications you're making?
No, on the second page here, number 11,
Okay,
which is the side exterior walls, I'd like to lower that to 8 meters,
from 8.45 to 8.0.
correct? And then I'd like to eliminate number 12.
12 is deleted.
That is under the 43886 bylaw.
Okay, so just to double check, variance number 4 is deleted. Variance 8, which refers to the floor space index, is being reduced from 5.575 to 0.565. The variance number 10, the building height, is being reduced from 11.16 to 10.45. Variance number 11, which relates to the height of the side exterior main wall, is being reduced from 8.45 to 8.0. And variance number 12 is deleted.
That is all correct.
Okay, thank you. So if you could give us a very brief presentation, what you see as the merits of your proposal?
All right, thank you very much. Because this property is on a slope, and could you please put the front facade on the screen? There's quite a substantial slope, high in the east and low in the west. That's a neighboring house. You might look at the photographs that are part of that grouping. So if you go to A9, the front facade. Don't know if the committee has made a site visit. Sometimes you do. You would have noted the slope differential from east to west, west to east. That's something we'll refer to soon enough, but if you can just go to A9. I think it might be the very next one below that on the screen. Can you possibly scroll down?
Mr. Higgins, we're trying. Our system's a little slow today, so be patient with us, please.
Oh, okay. Well, then perhaps I'll just keep talking. So there is a strong slope to the property, and it creates a number of the height variances. So, for example, the number 1 level of a floor platform is 2.14 versus 1.2. That has to do mostly with a differential between a normal flat lot and the lot that we have, which is about a meter of difference from 2 meters difference from left to right, which gives us an established grade that would be about a meter or so more difficult to work with than a flat lot. Number 2, we have the floor level of the platform at the entry, and it's at 1.24 versus 1.2. It's very minor. That is also a grade issue. Number 3, the platform is actually referring to the area just above the garage where we have a potential walkout from the office just over top of the garage. It also minimizes the effect of the garage, which is like a 1.5 large garage. The number 4 has been eliminated. Number 5 is a very important one. Side yard setbacks. We have an undulating plan. If you could please go to the plan or the colored site plan, if you have that handy. Along the both east and west facades, we have quite a bit of stepping. So I will illustrate till the site plan gets up, that along the east side, we have a variance of 1.2 meters. But in fact, the facade is broken up such that part of the facade is at 4.27 meters. 8.1 meters of length is at 1.2, which is the variance. The remaining 7.65 or 7.6 is at 1.5, which is the allowable. So two sections are either at the allowable or much greater than, and only a small portion is at 1.2 meters. Also, part of that is only one story, so it mitigates the exposure a little bit more. Now, on the west side, we have again quite an undulating facade. So although we have a 0.91 variance, which meets the same requirement, it matches the existing condition. We have 2.91 meters of length at 7 meters, 6.82 at the 0.91, and then we step in for 4.87 meters to 2.23 meters. So again, the undulating facades shows that we only have the variance on a small portion of this facade.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can I ask you a question with respect to variance number 10? Is the fact that I guess the impact of the grade, you're measuring the building height. Am I correct? You're measuring the building height for zoning purposes from a point roughly a meter below the existing grade?
That would be correct.
Yeah, so that explains why it seems so high, but it's actually because of that negative slope on the property that goes downhill on Limbstone.
That's correct. High on the east, low on the west.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of the speaker? There being none, I have 4 people registered to speak on this item. I have a Janet Griffin. Are you there, madam?
I am.
Okay, madam, you have the opportunity to make the committee aware of your views on this application.
Thank you very much. I represent the Lawrence Park ratepayers, and I did submit a letter, but as I've had some viruses in my computer, it didn't go when I thought it did. So I resubmitted it late last night. Do you have it?
Yes, we do.
Available to you? Okay, great. Thank you. So I think it's important to note that this lot is larger than usual in Lawrence Park. It covers 725 square meters, whereas this sort of typical lot is more like 675. As noted, it slopes down from the east to the west. And what's unusual about this lot is that it has a very broad frontage of 18.29 meters, which is bigger than most lots in Lawrence Park, which tend to be about 15 meters. The applicant is seeking to encroach into the side yard setbacks, and it's mystifying to me why you need to encroach in the side yard setbacks when the lot is larger than normal. That would be something you'd expect to see when the lot is narrower than usual. So I can't justify it. And in particular, the builder is seeking to reduce the west side yard setback by 39%, which cannot be described as minor. Further, the lot, the east side yard setback is being reduced by about 20%. And that's concerning because there's a lot of trees on the east side of the property, as shown in the photograph. Side yard setbacks provide for privacy between homes, access to rear yards, and a means for managing stormwater. So a new larger home will displace more water, so that's a concern. And it's bizarre that on the side where it's most likely to spill, the west side, they've chosen to make it narrower. So it would be our contention that, and the other element is that the trees on the east side would be quite badly damaged. And as noted by the urban forestry, that is a big concern, and they've actually asked to have this deferred. So I would respectfully ask that their side yards be respected. And if the committee feels that some variance is warranted, at least make the west side yard setback equal to the east side yard setback. The height has been a concern, and I see that it's been reduced. I can't see the plan, so I can't fully grasp what's going on. So I'm not going to speak to that further. The length is a bit long, and they've shortened the deck, so that's probably going to alter how that reads as well. But the FSI at large at 56.5 is still very high. There's no, the homes on Limbstone are few. It's a cross street, so I don't have any comparators, but the house immediately behind this house at 67 Weybourne was redeveloped a few years ago at 0.5. Also on Weybourne, redeveloped at 0.5 at number 74. Number 70 Weybourne was initially approved at 0.50 as well in 2014 and was without changing the exterior of the building. They filled in the interior, and that's what gave them 0.57. That happens to be the smallest lot in this old part of Lawrence Park. So those are the FSI is too big, the house is too wide. And then the last is in relation to the back deck. To have a deck sit 2 meters above ground is quite significant. And I realize that it's because the property slopes. But that means that and the side yard setback in relation to that deck is narrow. But the impact on the privacy to the people to the west is quite substantial. And I don't understand why the homeowner couldn't just have a staircase bringing them down to a flat level at that section of the home. They could just truncate that patio on the west side. So they don't have any, they can just have the window well itself. Anyway, I know we're short for time, but the main things I would ask for to make this fit better with the house is to bring the side yard setbacks in. And I realize it's undulating, but if you reduce the height by 1 foot on the main floor and only have 10 feet, you get rid of a couple of stairs, and you can easily not change the rooms, but have the house be narrower, and just have fewer steps in the staircase. So I would ask that you consider deeply asking this applicant to respect the side yard setbacks and to bring the FSI down closer to 0.50.
Okay, thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Any questions of the speaker? There being none, thank you very much. We have moved to the next speaker, John Charles Mueller. Are you there, sir? Mr. Mueller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, hello, sir. Can you can I get your full name and address, please?
John Charles Mueller, 58 Limbstone Avenue, Toronto.
Okay, thank you, sir. If you could give us your views on the subject.
Yes, first, could you clarify what Mr. Higgins said? I have the second, the revised public hearing notice, and some of the variance numbers that he's using are not in alignment with it.
Well, you should have the public notice that was distributed to you. I'll go through them again.
Well, I have.
Okay. I'll go through them again. Variance number 4, which is which reads, the last sentence reads, the proposed rear deck. Hang on just a moment. The proposed rear deck projects 2.6 meters from the rear wall. That variance.
Okay, excuse me, on my notice, that's number 3.
I don't know what notice you're reading from. The notice, how many variances do you have?
It's second notice. It's the second notice on Friday, September 25th, a revised public hearing notice. That's the last one that was sent.
No. What's that? We're dealing, variance number 3 deals with the proposed front west platform terrace is 0.91 meters from the west side lot line. Go to variance,
That's
go look at number 4. The last
Okay.
sentence reads, the proposed rear deck projects 2.6 meters from the rear wall. That variance is being deleted. Now go to variance number 8.
What about 5? 5 on my list is the required minimum.
Go to
Okay.
number 8.
8?
Okay, where the last
Yes.
sentence read, the proposed floor space index is 0.575 times the area of the lot. He's reducing that
Okay.
from 0.575 times to 0.565. Then
Fine.
go down to number 10, which the last sentence reads, the proposed height of the building is 11.16. He's reducing that to 10.45.
Yes.
Number 11, the proposed height of the side exterior main walls facing a side lot line is 8.45 meters. That's being reduced from 8.45 meters to 8.0 meters.
That means on both sides. That means on both sides?
On, would be the exterior, whatever the exterior main walls are. On number
Okay, all of them.
number 12 is being deleted.
What does that mean? There is no further variance?
He's not requesting a variance from that bylaw. That's an old City of Toronto bylaw, which is technically.
So he's going,
but it's still.
so he's going to adhere to the 10 meters?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, well, my overall comments, I did express in the letter. From a general standpoint, I'm completely in agreement with what the Lawrence Park Ratepayers Association said. The problem, in my view, is that when you have the size of the variance on number 8 at 0.575, it translates into variances all across the design. I find it unacceptable that both sides of the side yard setbacks are in variance right now. I don't know a house that I've seen in what I would call our neighborhood, which is, I would view as Old Lawrence Park, the part that's west of Mount Pleasant, and has the oldest, it's the oldest homes. This is not, somebody used the expression, appropriate for the neighborhood. It is totally out of character. All these houses in this area have ample setbacks. I mean, mine are 12 feet and 20 feet on a similar size lot. The real concern that I have expressed.
Okay, so, sir,
has been,
sir,
yeah.
Can I ask, do you know what the existing setbacks are for the existing building at number 60?
One section of the west wall.
They're all less than 1 meter. Okay. Is there any further questions of the speaker? Any further questions of the speaker?
I don't. Of the speaker? I'm the speaker.
Yeah, I was asking if the committee has any further questions of you. Your 5 minutes is up.
Can I ask 2 quick
No, you
clarifications?
can't. We ask questions now. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Okay, we have another speaker registered, Patricia, I hope I pronounced this right, please correct me. Patricia Gunlock?
Yeah. Hi.
Madam, are you there?
Hi. Yes, I am.
Can I get your full name and address, please, madam?
Well, you have both myself and my husband, Patricia and John Dowenlock, and we reside at 64 Limbstone Avenue. which
Okay,
is
madam,
east.
thank you very much. If you could give us your views on this application, but I would suggest, madam, please don't repeat stuff we've already heard.
Okay. Do you want to go?
Okay.
I'll let my husband speak.
Okay, I will speak to initial meeting with the applicant on Sunday, the 20th. When they presented the neighborhood package to us, we were told only 2 trees would be impacted. We prepared our notice of objection and filed in advance of receiving the arborist report. Upon receipt of the arborist report, we learned that the application planned to injure all 4 trees protected by the city bylaw. In combination of building length, height, and the exterior main wall facing a side lot, in particular on our shared property line, we have 4 coniferous trees that meet the requirements of the city private tree bylaw. We did a subsequent meeting to try and understand the extent of the damage to those trees with the architect and the applicant's arborist on Monday of this week. Because of the short notice and our inability to get the arborist report in advance of this meeting, we're only just beginning to engage our own arborist for their views on the impact of the property. We were lucky enough to have them meet with the new arborist on Tuesday. In summary, what we have learned is that in conjunction for reasons of being able to access the east side wall in construction, we have been told both by their arborist and confirmed by our arborist that we expect to see significant denuding of pruning of the branches, pretty much nearly from bottom to top of the trees. These are trees 45 to 60 years in age. When we remove the branches, we remove the access to oxygen. We unweight the tree, that therefore creates both a health issue for the tree and a safety issue as well. And that doesn't even begin to speak to the impact of the boundary where there'll be compaction and helical piles that potentially can sever the roots of trees as well. We have open questions to urban forestry, so we're pleased to hear that they have recommended deferring this application. We're trying to learn more, and I think
Yeah, and I think an overall is that this will be a permanent impact on the use of our side yard and the light. We realize that with a new build, we will have some impact, but if we could just stay within the bylaws, that impact would be reduced, and we're looking to you to try to just reduce, that is our yard. We don't have a backyard, so the length of that wall will have a huge impact on our enjoyment and our privacy. And most importantly, the trees that are there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? There being none, we'll move to the last speaker registered on our list, Mr. Ralph Nella. Are you there, sir?
They're not present, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. Thank you. We'll go back to Mr. Higgins. Mr. Higgins, are you there?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, you've heard the comments from the previous speakers, if you'd like to address them.
Well, I'm certainly going to try, and I hope you give me 5 minutes. The existing house has side yards of 0.92 on the west side and 0.77 on the east side. What we haven't spoken to, and I'd like you to put up on the screen, please, if you could, the cross section, it was up earlier, that shows how we're dealing with the trees. These trees were planted by former owner, I'm sure, of number 64. They were planted to maximize the side, which is really a backyard, which we found out of number 64. So they are planted very close to the mutual property line. Our arborist has revised, and the neighbor to the east has a copy of the revised report where, and of course, arborists can disagree. But in our meeting, it was clear that we had very minimal injury, one helical pier within the tree protection zone for trees 4 and 5. And we believe that the existing foundation wall, which would show up then on the cross section. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find your cross section. Where is it? Could you try to find that cross section? We have stepped the entire foundation wall along the east side back approximately 5 extra feet. And that is all being built within the old foundation wall, which is much, much closer to the property line than we're proposing. We're using the old foundation wall to stop any damage beyond some foot traffic. I really need that section if you could. Perhaps each member, you have that section. You can see there's this very big cantilever with the basement wall being set back considerably. I certainly hear the neighbors' concerns about pruning. Pruning is allowed to be done. Nobody likes it, but if the neighbor's tree is growing well beyond the required side yard setback, I'm not sure what we can do other than to prune it very carefully, which was discussed on site. Thank you. There is the cross section. You can see an approximation of the tree. Some of the trees are definitely taller than that. You can see the property line. You can see, and for some reason I'm not seeing any notifications, but you can see a lone foundation wall. That is the existing house foundation wall that stays intact. You can see a substantial setback of the basement with a big cantilever over, so that the roots of those trees are really, truly not injured much at all. And of course, we can talk about that later, but we're doing everything we can. Now, we only have a side yard setback for a small portion of that side yard setback. The rest of it is either well beyond the allowable or at least at the allowable. And Mrs. Gowanlock mentioned that if only we met the zoning regulations. Well, I'm sorry, but setting the part of the house that's at 4 feet back to 5 feet, or 1.2 to 1.5, is not going to change the pruning more than 12 inches. So I would ask this committee to understand that we are doing absolutely everything that we can to save these trees and have absolutely minor injury to them. Now, I mentioned that the existing house is much closer than the proposed. You can see it there. I wanted to point out a couple of things. Janet Griffin referred to the builder. There is no builder here. This is my clients and their family. They're listening on, and the two neighbors 100% know that these are end users and very nice people. Janet also mentioned that this is a very large lot. Well, yes, it is 60 feet or 18 meters wide versus a typical 50 foot for most of Lawrence Park, but most of Lawrence Park is 50 by 150 or 15 by whatever that is. We have a very short lot. And as per the photographs that you have, and if you could bring up the photographs, please, there is a house on Weyburn Crescent smack in the backyard that my clients
Sir, can you
have to look at.
summarize?
Well, what I'm trying to say is if you could bring up the photograph, please.
Sir, you have 5 seconds. Can you summarize?
I'm countering the points. Oh, please, Mr. Chairman, this is not fair.
No, it's
I've
fine.
had
Your
4
5
people
minutes is up,
look.
sir.
I've had
Thank
4
you.
people rebutting, and I need to say these. The rear deck is not at a variance by
Okay,
length,
thank you, sir.
and certainly not by height.
Thank you.
And we have followed, with the most part, the recommendations of the planning department. We can't
Sir,
get the height
Mr.
down all
Higgins.
the way.
Mr. Higgins, your time is up. Thank you. Can I go back to committee, please? Does committee have any questions of the speaker? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Number one, I do want to give Mr. Higgins just one more spiel at the back because that was important for me to listen to. I just want to hear about that last photograph we were looking at. And secondly, you had mentioned, Mr. Higgins, at the very beginning that there was, you said that naturally existing was a 0.92 west side setback and a 0.77 east side setback, which you've improved. And I just wanted to make sure I got that correct. Was that correct?
That is correct. That's how we are able to build the new foundation wall inside of where the old foundation wall was. We can keep it intact as the cross section showed. If we were within inches, the wall would fall down. But we're 5 feet in with our proposed foundation wall, which is way inside of the existing. And I just ask you to please look at the drawings. There is only a small section that's at 1.2 meters. In the west side, there's only a small section that is at 0.91 meters. We believe, and this committee should know, that we won't get a building permit, and both neighbors understand this, without a proper drainage plan. We will make sure that the water from this home, which is larger for certain, will stay on the property through French drains, etc. We've spoken with Mr. Mueller at number 58. We heard directly his concerns about overland water. We will deal with that, and we have to because we won't get a permit otherwise. The rear deck, we've reduced it so that it's no longer a variance in terms of its length. The house is shorter than it's allowed to be in terms of the 2-story portion and the 1-story portion. It's only the fact that there is a recreation room underneath the proposed deck or terrace that creates a length and a depth variance. But that is mostly below grade, not fully.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. I think that
We're talking about the revised application. Do I have to go through these revisions all over again, or, okay, thank you. Ms. Sanker?
I've got them. Okay, I want to thank all the speakers for voicing their concerns. It's not something we take lightly, but given this particular scenario, looking at this, I think that this builder or these clients are actually doing the best they can with the space that they have. So for that reason, I do appreciate the changes that they made here today as well. Some of the things that were mentioned by the speakers, we have no control over, and they are indeed building issues. You wouldn't get a permit for that. But other things I think would be captured in what I'm going to say. So I'll motion to approve this application. I'll make it subject to the changes made here today by the architect, Mr. Higgins, which is variance number 4 will be deleted. Variance number 8 will be at 0.565. Variance number 10 will move to 10.45. Variance number 11 to 8.0. And variance number 12 is deleted. And this proposal be developed substantially in accordance with the building length that includes the proposed rear terrace as seen on the site plan drawing attached to the report, as well as subject to forestry.
Someone to second Ms. Sanker's motion? Mr. Khan seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries. Sir, your application's been approved, subject to city planning and urban forestry conditions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and all committee members. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 39, 17 Burncrest Drive. Mr. Higgins, you're up at bat again.
I am. Thank you very much. And if I may thank
Higgins.
Mr. Antonacci, if I may thank Mr. Antonacci to allow it to stand down. It's really helped me gather all my thoughts and my papers on my very small desk.
No bother.
Now,
can I ask, have you had the chance to read the city planning report of the 29th of September on this application? Because they're recommending, that the application be refused.
Yes, I see that, and they recommended, and if you look at their comments.
Okay, just hold off a second. Do you
Yes,
want
I'm
to defer the application so that you can discuss this with city planning, or do you want to proceed?
I want to proceed because I believe we're going to show you that we have listened to planning.
Okay, it's your call, so I'll
Of
have
course.
the opportunity to try, you have your 5 minutes to tell us why you think we shouldn't listen to city planning.
Well, because I've listened to city planning and my clients have listened to city planning. I think that's the substance of it. So if I can go through the variance list and the staff report. Okay. Number one, proposed coverage is 42.2%. This committee doesn't have to know, but the overage is mostly because of the rear terrace and the area in the basement under the rear terrace. In discussion with my clients, we are going to propose, which is very close to what the planning department proposed, 32.5% for the lot coverage.
Hang on
And
just
I
a
would like to,
Hang on just a
I beg your
second,
pardon?
Mr. Higgins, just a second. So are you proposing to make modifications to your application?
absolutely, so that you can see that we've
Yes.
listened to
Okay, so
planning.
can you list what those modifications are now? Let's do it at the beginning.
Okay, then I'll come back. I will. So number one is modified from 42.2% coverage to 32.5.
Okay,
Number two is removed.
removed.
Number three is removed.
Number 3, removed.
I'll speak to number 4.
Okay,
I'll speak to number 5. And number 6 stays. So it's really those important
hang on
ones.
just a
We
second.
reduced number 1 and eliminated 2 of the
Now,
variances for side
Mr.
rear.
Higgins, number 5
Yes, sir.
stays the same
Yes.
and 6 stays the same.
Let me just reread number 5. Any portion of building is 17. Yes, they
5
both
and
stay.
6. Okay, so.
That's
okay,
correct.
5 and 6 stay the same.
Correct.
Okay,
Now, you're welcome. May I speak to it now, please?
Yes.
We hand delivered 13 packages and we received 8 letters of support from neighbors, some of whom have larger homes, all of whom understood that the neighbor is in great transition. We have letters of no objection from number 8, 10, 11, 16, 18, 19, 21, and 23 Burncrest Drive, and those are all in front of you. No one lives in the rear yard because it's a beautiful park. So we immediately went to all the neighbors and we received, including support from the neighbor immediately to the east. There is no opposition from the neighbor to the west. They've been hard to get a hold of, but I would say if they were going to oppose, they would have. The east side yard setback is a result of shifting the house from the west side to save a line of trees. So we have a greater than minimum number on the on the west side, but we are compensating to some degree by pushing the house closer to the east. The east neighbor is okay with that. The aggregate, so to speak, would be, we have an average of 2.77 meter setback on the 2 sides if you were to average it out, as opposed to the 3 meter required. So we think that between number 2 being removed as the front yard, number 3 being removed as the rear yard, and number 4 being explained to you, I believe we have covered the planning department stating the applicant is also requesting reductions to 3 of the 4 lot lines setbacks. We're not doing that for 2 of them anymore, front and rear. And I'm explaining the one last one. They had suggested that the consistently below 30% was what was approved in this neighborhood. Well, we believe we've come down substantially by eliminating the area although it wasn't bothering anybody because it was in the basement, in the backyard. We've reduced the coverage considerably down to 32.5%. And I just want to point out that in 2017, 20 St. Field was approved for 43.99% with provisos for certain conditions in the back, resulting in a 32.28% approval for the house. And then more recently in 2018, 3 Royal York Drive, both of these within walking distance, spitting distance, 3 Royal York Royal Oak Drive was approved at 33.25% with side yards, with height, both of them. So at 32.5, we're not quite where planning was suggesting, but we've come a long way down. We have 8 letters of support and no objection other than the planning department. But I believe if the planning department, and believe me, I was trying to get a hold of them for a week to discuss this, I believe in hearing all of this, they would say we've done a good job of listening to their arguments. And instead of being refused, I would ask this committee to base their judgment on the reductions we've made, the letters of support.
Okay, thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Does the committee have any questions of the speaker? Mr. Khan?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Higgins.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm going to variance number 1.
Yes, sir.
You're modifying from 42.2 to 35.5. Still, it is very high.
No, sir. It's 32.5, not 35.
Let me stay with you. Just a minute, please.
It's 32.5. We cut down 10 percentage points.
32.5. But still, it is a little bit high.
Yes, it's a little bit high, and this is for a Chinese family, beautiful family who live there now, and they are trying to bring in their parents to live with them. There is this heritage of having their loved ones with them, especially this time of COVID. And I know I've used that argument before, but if 2 houses around the corner received the same or higher, we think the 32.5 is showing respect for the committee, because although they say consistently below 30, there are many at 30 and a couple above 32 and a half. So,
Sir, you're making a comment that somebody else has got, well, whatever they got. That is not the committee's concern.
Well, it's not uncommon, and I think the 8 letters of no objection on this street, all immediate, show that the neighbors understand that these are going the way of larger homes, and so that color drawing shows that we're eliminating some of the area of the house. We're eliminating all of the area that was of concern at the front and the rear. Underground, so the basement's much smaller. We have a 3-car garage, which adds to coverage. We need the 3-car garage because of the blended families. And I personally think 32.5 is quite reasonable when similar has been approved by the committee recently.
Thank you, sir. Any further
Well,
questions of the speaker?
Can I ask one more question,
Mr.
sir?
Khan, Ms. Sankar has a question. Let her go first.
No, sir, I was ready for a motion.
Mr. Khan, do you have one more question?
Thank you. Yes, sir, I do. Mr. Higgins, I will draw your attention towards variance number 5. That distance is really regrettable. I mean, it's too small. 1.83 is, in comparison to 7.5, is very, very short.
Well, if you don't mind, let me just get my drawing out to confirm that. This has to do with the rear terrace. And because of the slope of the property, and I don't know if the committee can bring up the cross section or the side elevations, actually, the 2 side elevations show that this property drops dramatically down into a forested section and then into the park. The site plan doesn't show that. You need to see the side elevations. So the only amenity space that is afforded to my client, other than the front yard, is the rear terrace. And that rear terrace is only approximately 14 feet deep, but it does stretch along the back of the house. And it does line up with the side of the side, and that's where the variance is. I would just say that if that is a sticking point, we can reduce it as we've done so on the side, we've been able to because of a walkout, but so Mr. Khan, I hope you're understanding that this is simply set back to a patio. And that patio is about feet above grade at that point.
Sir, I'm just
It's
All
not,
right, then.
it's not,
All right, thank
sir,
you,
it's
sir.
not the house, is what I'm getting at. It's not the house, it's the patio.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can I get a motion on this application, please? Ms. Sankar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. You know what? I mean, this is indeed a developing area, and we do have to bear that in mind to see if it would fit the natural sort of landscape of this area. And you know what? I do believe it does. So for that reason, the changes made by the applicant here today resonates with me. I think it does address staff reports. So I'm going to put forward a motion to approve this application with the changes made here by the applicant here today. Variance number 1 is going to be changed to 32.5%. Variances number 2 and 3 will be removed. And I'm wondering, did we say something about number 4 as well? No, we left it as is.
No, it's very.
Yes.
You've got them correct, Ms. Sankar.
Right, and it is, I believe, subject to forestry as well. And so for that reason, 8 letters of support, I'm in support of this.
Thank you, Ms. Sankar. Someone to second that motion. Mr. Hunt seconds. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Sir, your application's been unanimously approved, subject to urban forestry conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. And again, I wish I could see you. I can't. Mr. Antonacci, thank you so much for allowing me to stand down. It was very important.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Can I get a
Have a good
motion?
afternoon.
Can I get a motion to terminate the meeting? I'll do that. Done. Thank you, folks. Thanks so much for your patience, eh? Wow.
Bye, everyone.
10 after 5.
Good job today.